On the contrary, Xia Chuan had several deep sword wounds on his chest, visible even through the fabric strips. His breath was erratic as he walked, and his injuries were obviously more severe than his own. Xia Chuan didn't answer and instead approached with concern to carefully examine the wounds on Xia Hong's body. After looking them over, his face instantly filled with rage. But he quickly suppressed his anger and then opened his mouth to respond. Just now, Yuan Dao sent Chen Ying to the beehive to inform me, saying there are a lot of matters piling up here in Long Mountain that need my handling. The army won't be able to set out until after nightfall. I found it too slow, so I hurried over by myself. Indeed, there are many matters here. You're just in time. Long Mountain has more than 130,000 people. As of now, nearly 10,000 people are still locked in the dungeon, while the remaining 120,000 are scattered throughout the camp. It's all up to the over 10,000 Earth-Digging Realm soldiers led by Hu Jing, Yu Bin, and Dong Zhang to watch over them, but they still occasionally stir up trouble. Riots need to be suppressed, personnel need to be sorted, and the people in the dungeon must be handled, including post-war penal adjudications and the subsequent integration and relocation of populations. These are matters Xia Hong doesn't have the mind to deal with. Xia Chuan, as the minister, is indeed needed to handle them specifically. Understood, Big Brother. I've already notified Yuan Dao to gather everyone in the main hall. I'll start dealing with it right away. Xia Chuan's expression was very serious, obviously having been informed by Chen Ying at the beehive about a lot of the situation here. Xia Hong nodded slightly and suddenly turned to glance at the back of the main hall, saying, "How to handle the people of the Li family and how to appease those loyal to the Li family, Yuan Dao should have told you. Prioritize handling these two matters to prevent any further disturbances in the camp." "Yes, Big Brother." "All right, you handle it. I'm going to rest now." After Xia Hong finished speaking, he gestured for Xia Chuan to handle things on his own, and then directly walked toward the residential quarters at the back of the main hall. Xia Chuan took a seat at the chief position on the left side of the main hall and closed his eyes, waiting for people to arrive. Very soon, Yuan Dao was the first to walk in. "Greetings, Minister. Everyone has been notified and will be here shortly." Xia Chuan waved his hand and said, "Good, wait with me." Yuan Dao, noticing Xia Chuan's unhappy expression, thought for a moment and didn't find a place to sit, instead standing in the middle of the main hall. Very soon, Liu Yuan, Peng Bo, Chen Yingba, Wu Tianxing, Yue Feng, Chen Ying, and others totaling 15 cold resistance level individuals of Great Xia arrived. Followed by Hu Jing, Yu Bin, Dong Zhang, Hu Xing, Zhang Ying, Kang Fan, and Wu Ningyuan, totaling 7 cold resistance level individuals from the 4 families of Zhejiang, White Abyss, Xiling, and Dongkang. In addition to these 25 cold resistance level individuals, 5 people with only Earth-Digging Realm limit cultivation entered with anxious expressions. "Greetings, Minister." Xia Chuan's always tense expression relaxed considerably after seeing Li Hu and Yang Zhang. He gently raised his hand, indicating for the two to rise. As his gaze shifted to the other 3, Yuan Dao timely introduced. "Minister, these 3 are Yan Donghai, Wang Bio, and Liu Gu, sons of former leaders of the Yucheng, Song Yuan, and Changning families. They were instrumental in inciting the 3,000 Earth-Digging Realm individuals in Long Mountain." Yan Donghai and the 3 others promptly bowed and paid their respects to Xia Chuan. "Greetings, Minister." "No need for excessive courtesy, rise." Xia Chuan waved his hand to signal the 3 to rise, then directly got up and stood below the main seat of the platform, facing the crowd. He spoke in a stern tone. "I heard that after storming into Long Mountain last night, there were 9 outbreaks of unrest in the last hour and more before dawn, and during the last one, 6 assassins even got close to the leader, nearly succeeding in assassination." Xia Chuan's voice was tinged with evident anger, and the 9 individuals present last night had slight changes in their expressions. Hu Jing, Yu Bin, and Dong Zhang furrowed their brows, clearly sensing something. Excluding the over 10,000 people locked in the dungeon, there are over 120,000 people scattered throughout Long Mountain Camp at present. But basically, these are logging realm and even ordinary people, with very few Earth-Digging Realm individuals among them. You have over 600 Cloud Dragon Army soldiers and more than 10,000 Earth-Digging Realm individuals, yet you can't even handle this number of people. I want to ask, are you truly too stupid and incompetent, or do some of you harbor ulterior motives? Xia Chuan's tone was calm and low, and the last sentence he nearly directed right at Hu Jing and the 9 others. In front, Liu Yuan and Peng Bo had long bowed their heads in guilt. Hu Jing's expression was downcast, with an unreadable look on his face. Dong Zhang and Yu Bin, along with 6 others, clearly lacked the composure of the former, with their chests heaving with anger, seemingly ready to retort. Chen Yingba and Wu Tianxing hastily lowered their heads, not daring to meet Xia Chuan's eyes. Yuan Director, take 10,000 earth-digging realm individuals, divide them into 10 battalions of 1,000 each, and place them under the command of Yue Feng, Bai Wuding, Yingyi Lu He, Zhu Yuankai, Chen Ying, Lu Sheng, Tong Xinglong, Li Yuankun, and Zhao Qingcheng. Have them all ready before nightfall. At your command. After nightfall, Yu Ten will lead, driving all 120,000 plus people in the camp to the vicinity of the North District dungeon. Ensure not a single one is missed, and any who cause unrest or defiance, kill them outright without reporting to me. At your command. Peng Bo, after nightfall, take 300 Cloud Dragon army soldiers to drag out all Li family members from the dungeon. Remember to silence them. At your command. Liu Yuan, take the remaining Cloud Dragon army soldiers and bring all cold resistance level individuals and their families from the main building to the dungeon area as well. At your command. After nightfall, I want to announce in the North District that Long Mountain has thus changed ownership. The Longyu calendar is hereby ended, and from now on, the entire Longyu will uniformly use the Great Xia calendar. Furthermore. At this point, Xia Chuan paused slightly, then his voice deepened sharply, continuing. All Li family members must also be executed with proper sentences. Upon hearing this, the fury that had just emerged on the faces of the 9 not named, including Hu Jing, dissipated considerably. They looked up at the killing intent on Xia Chuan's face, feeling a chill in their hearts. Chapter 783, Chapter 312, Reining in Killing, Shock and Submission. May I ask, Minister, what should we do? As Yuan Dao and the others from Great Xia were about to leave the Grand Hall after receiving their orders, Yu Bin from Xiling couldn't help but speak up, though his tone clearly carried anger. Currently, the over 10,000 earth-digging realm controlling the station were all people from Zhejiang, Xiling, White Abyss, Dongqing, Yucheng, Song Yuan, and Chaining. The earth-digging realm of the 7 families, naturally, had to be led by the leaders or top members of the 7 families. Previously, after Xia Hong conquered Long Mountain, at most he only allowed Chen Yingba and Wu Tianxing to take control of the military powers of Yucheng, Song Yuan, and Chaining. Xia Chuan had just arrived and had swiftly taken all military power from their hands, so not only Yu Bin, but Hu Jing, Dong Zhang, and Wu Ningyuan also looked displeased. Yu Bin was ostensibly asking what he should do, but in reality he was expressing dissatisfaction about having his military power taken away, and everyone present could hear it. Those like Yuan Dao, who had been about to leave the Grand Hall, immediately stopped and stared at Yu Bin with unfriendly gazes. Being stared at by 15 people at once, Yu Bin's expression instantly showed some regret. The others could hear it, and needless to say, so could Xia Chuan. Leader Yu, do you still want to command troops? Xia Chuan did not answer but candidly exposed Yu Bin's intentions, asking him directly if he still wanted to lead troops. Even though Xia Chuan's tone was calm without any hint of threat. Yu Bin, looking up to meet his extremely indifferent gaze, felt a jolt in his heart and immediately lowered his head. I dare not. After Yu Bin said these 4 words, the expressions of Hu Jing, Dong Zhang, Wu Ningyuan, and the other 6 dimmed slightly, showing obvious disappointment. So long as you dare not, it's fine. You 7 have just joined and might not be familiar with our rules. All personnel in the earth-digging realm and above in Great Xia are unified under the jurisdiction of the Hunting Department, one of the 6 ministries. The current Hunting Department Director is Yuan Dao before you. Xia Chuan paused slightly at this point, then continued. So from now on, not only those over 10,000 earth-digging realm but you 7 as well have to follow Director Yuan's orders do. You understand? Xia Chuan deliberately emphasized the last 4 words. The 7 people's bodies stiffened slightly, then they wisely turned around and bowed in unison to Yuan Dao, saying in unison, We pay our respects to Director Yuan. No need for formalities. We must soon reorganize the over 10,000 people, and I will rely heavily on your cooperation. Please. Yuan Dao, with remarkable acumen, instantly grasped Xia Chuan's intentions, and directly requested the seven to cooperate in reorganizing the earth-digging realm. After being suppressed by Xia Chuan's series of measures, the seven naturally dared not voice any opposition, all bowing repeatedly, displaying utmost cooperation. Chen Yingba, Wu Tianxing, you two are to depart immediately to inventory the current population, stockpiles and various minerals at the 7 stations of Zhejiang, Xiling, White Abyss, Dongkeng, Yucheng, Song Yuan, and Changning. Inform everyone in the 7 stations to start packing within these 2 days. By no later than the 10th, I will send a large force to relocate all of them to Xia City. If anything goes wrong, I will hold you accountable. Chen Yingba and Wu Tianxing both showed a bit of bitterness on their faces. Hearing Xia Chuan suppress Hu Jing and the others earlier, they already had a bad premonition, and being assigned such taxing and laborious tasks confirmed that Xia Chuan was blaming them for the assassination attempt on Xia Hong last night. Yet with guilty consciences, neither dared to object at this moment and hurriedly bowed their heads. We obey. All right, night is falling soon, go tend to your tasks. Everyone bowed and quickly walked out of the grand hall. Xia Chuan turned and bowed slightly to the high platform behind him before also exiting. To seize Hu Jing and the others' military power so impatiently, do you still expect them to obediently serve great Xia? Dream on. In the chamber behind the high platform of the grand hall, wrapped in a fleece blanket, Li Xuanling half sat on the bed, watching Xia Hong beside her cultivate, her laughter cold. Xia Hong sat cross-legged, motionless, blood energy swirling around him. The flesh beneath the skin membrane subtly undulated with his breathing, seemingly oblivious to her words. Every camp in Longyu is not much different from our Long Mountain model, all ruled by 1 or 2 surnames at the top. The reason those 7 families defected this time is merely due to their hatred for us at Long Mountain. To truly integrate the entire population of these 7 families into Great Xia, you must not treat Hu Jing this way. Enough nonsense, I will never spare the Li family. Li Xuanling's expression slightly stiffened as she was interrupted, first clenching a delicate fist under the fleece blanket, then her eyes reddened and her voice softened suddenly. Since you've already decided to have me marry into your family, why must you kill them? You wouldn't want your future bedfellow to be someone who always wants to kill you, would you? Whoosh! Xia Hong took a deep breath, and the blood energy surrounding him instantly flowed back into his body through the pores. Then he turned to look at Li Xuanling beside him, suddenly smiling. So you knew how to play soft after all. Suddenly inspired, he pinched Li Xuanling's chin with a disdainful smile. Your biggest flaw is being arrogant, mistaking weeds for treasures. In your eyes, besides what you deem precious, everything else is worthless. Did I ever say I wanted Hu Jing and the others to serve me obediently? Zhejiang, Xiling, White Abyss, Dongkeng, for my purposes, it's always been about winning over the majority among these 4 families. 11,000 people, not the so-called upper echelons. If they really could unite everyone under them like a single band, they wouldn't end up like your Long Mountain, eventually getting swallowed by my great Xia. Chapter 784, Chapter 312, Reining in, Killing, Shock and Submission, Part 2. You overestimate those so-called high-level figures you keep talking about. This is the letter Meng Tian just sent me, take a look. Xia Hong suddenly took out a beast skin roll from his chest and threw it onto the bed. Meng Tian. Hearing this name, Li Xuanling was first startled, then picked up the beast skin roll. After reading the contents, his face turned ashen. The beast skin roll recorded all the conversations of Meng Ying, Jiang Ping, and Sun Yan after they returned to the cell, including discussions about connecting with others to force Great Xia to let go of their 4 siblings, all remembered distinctly. Even Meng Tian, you managed to buy off. Is there a need to buy off? Xia Hong's lips curved into a cold smile, disdainfully said. Since last night after taking Long Mountain, there's been an endless stream of Long Mountain people pledging allegiance to Great Xia. Meng Tian is merely one of them. Among such high-level outsiders like him, there are at least 300 or 400. As for the ordinary people below, they are even more numerous. Li Xuanling was evidently deeply shocked, her expression already dazed. Meng Tian's identity is indeed too special. His father Meng Ying is one of the Longshan 8 Great Vajra, whose loyalty to the Li family is unquestionable. Yet Meng Tian, a high-level member of Long Mountain, quickly turned to Great Xia, showing how unpopular the Li family is. And among such high-level members like Meng Tian, there are 300 or 400 more. Guess, is there anyone in your Li family clan who also pledged allegiance to my great Xia to save their lives. Xia Hong kept attacking Li Xuanling's inner feelings and continued speaking before she could answer. Even Meng Tian, a definite high-level core member, has no loyalty whatsoever to your Li family, let alone those ordinary people below. Your so-called high-level governance is already riddled with holes. Like the 13,000 people of Long Mountain, whether they can integrate into Great Xia is not for the Li family to decide. The 7 families totaling 11,000 people likewise cannot be decided by Hu Jing and those at the cold resistance level. The resource allocation model of the Longyu camps predestined that a slight division would lead many to turn towards Great Xia for a simple reason. For ordinary people, Longyu is too unfair. All camps practice the same rules as Long Mountain in resource allocation, where all resources unconditionally favor the most core family or families. Starting from the initially seen elite system of the Beehive to the deeper understanding of Longyu later, Xia Hong had already seen this point. The Beehive Chen family, Zhejiang Hu family, Longshan Li family, Washuang Wu family, Hankyang Han family. The 12 families of Longyu, rather than being 12 giant camps, should be seen as 12 controlling mass populations, independent large families. You 12 families are like parasites, constantly drawing blood from the more than 4,000 people of Longyu, enjoying their sustenance while maintaining your supreme position. Without external intervention, those below are powerless to resist, and you can certainly continue this game. But once strong external forces intervene, you 12 families will immediately suffer backlash and be attacked. Tonight's Li family is the end. After these words, Xia Hong paused and continued to sneer. If Hu Jing's 4 families are smart, they'll know that keeping a low profile is their best way to stay alive. If they dare entertain any improper thoughts, tonight's Li family will be there tomorrow. Upon hearing these words and realizing the Li family members can't escape death, Li Xuanling raised her head, staring at Xia Hong with unabashed intense hatred in her eyes. However, Xia Hong's face was full of indifference, coldly smiling as he continued. I don't care if you want to kill me all the time. Whether you have the ability to kill me is what matters most. Before you have the skill, you'd better behave and not look for trouble. Clab, clab, clab. As Li Xuanling's expression grew more flustered, the sounds coming from her throat also became increasingly strange. In the second year of Great Xia, on the 7th day of the 7th month, the night arrived as expected. After some stern warnings from Xia Chuan, Hu Jing and the others showed a noticeable change in attitude, evident from Yuan Dao's assembly of more than 10,000 earth-digging realm workers, taking less than an hour. Once over 10,000 personnel had been reassembled, Yue Feng and 10 others immediately led their respective 1,000-man teams to drive all people scattered at various places of deployment to gather in the North District's dungeons. 12,000 people, no matter what action is taken, consider it a major event, and naturally it didn't go smoothly. However, with Xia Chuan's order, Yuan Dao and Yue Feng showed no mercy. Listen up, I'll say it once. Those who fail to gather outside the North District's dungeon within half an hour will be treated as offenders against the minister, subject to 3 years of mandatory labor. As Yuan Dao signaled Yue Feng and the others to convey the orders, the entire deployment area immediately became lively, as a massive stream of people walked out of their houses toward gathering outside the North District's dungeon. What are they planning to do? I don't know. Are we going to be locked up in the North District dungeon? How's that possible? With tens of thousands of people, even wanting to lock them all up is impossible. Long Mountain has changed hands. At this moment, calling us to the dungeon, what else could it be for? Surely is to deal with the Li family and the earth-digging realm people inside the dungeon. My father is currently locked in the dungeon. Will Great Xia kill him? Unlikely. There are more than 7,000 earth-digging realm members locked inside. Great Xia shouldn't dare execute them all. Look at the main building over there. The people locked in the main building are coming too. Chapter 785. Chapter 312. Regaining Focus, Killing, Shock, and Submission, Part 3. Those seem to be the families of Meng Ying, Jiang Ping, and several other nobles. Weren't they supposed to switch allegiance to Great Xia? Why are they coming to the dungeon? I don't know, let's hurry. The back is urging us more and more. More than 120,000 people. Took over 2 hours to arrive in the North District. The space outside the dungeon in the North District was originally not large, so naturally, It was impossible to accommodate 120,000 people smoothly. Thanks to Xia Chuan, who specifically ordered people to demolish all the surrounding buildings, leaving a huge square of a kilometer square, and then having 10,000-man teams led by Yuan Dao maintain order while dividing the crowd into 10 sections, all the people were successfully gathered. Everyone faced the direction of the dungeon, and near the dungeon entrance, a temporary platform 5 meters high was built with wood, clearly to allow everyone to see. Tens of thousands of people gathering together would be chaotic, with every cough making a scene, so naturally, the entire square was buzzing with noise and utterly disorderly. On the high platform, Yuan Dao frowned slightly due to the excessive noise below and cupped his hands towards Xia Chuan beside him, saying, "Minister, everyone is here, shouldn't we make them quiet down?" Hearing Yuan Dao's words, Xia Chuan shook his head and directly nodded towards Peng Bo beside him. Peng Bo cupped his hands in understanding and walked to the back of the high platform. Soon, from the back of the high platform, soldiers of the Cloud Dragon army wearing light gold armor, each leading a prisoner, appeared. All the prisoners had iron hooks piercing through their collarbones and wood stuffed in their mouths, rendering them unable to speak, only able to make muffled sounds. "Isn't that council member Chuanping? His son is also there. Lord Chuanqiu is also present. They're all from the Li family. Not just them, Lord Chuanqiu's husband, Yang Fengping, is also there. Their son Yang Gan is in the front row too. They're all the main and extended family of the Li clan." The first batch pulled out consisted of 29 people in total. Besides the 27 who attacked the first floor last night, 2 were seriously injured during the assault on the beehive earlier. All were at the cold resistance level of cultivation, and their identities were either core members of the Li clan or related by marriage. The identities of those prisoners on the high platform quickly spread by word of mouth to everyone below. For all those below, these 29 cold resistance level figures were untouchable bigwigs in daily life, but now they were kneeling on the high platform in front of them, under the guard of great Xia soldiers. The psychological impact was imaginable. Every single person had their eyes wide open, staring at the high platform. The noise in the square quickly diminished. As Yue Feng and the other 10 cold resistance levels of Great Xia walked behind the prisoners, raising the butcher knives in their hands, everyone's expressions below became incredulous. Could it be? Clicking. Clang. With a slight wave of Xia Chuan's hand, Yue Feng and the others simultaneously raised their butcher knives, and the heads of Li Xuanping and the 10 in the front row were instantly severed. The sound of the knives and the rolling of heads on the ground were almost synchronized. The last bit of noise in the square vanished completely as 10 heads rolled, with everyone's already wide eyes now filled with shock and disbelief. Of course, hidden deep within their eyes was a hint of joy. Clicking. Clicking. Yue Feng and the others went through 2 more rounds, and after all 29 people on the high platform were executed, dozens of golden-armored soldiers immediately rushed out to collect the bodies. Once the high platform was cleared, Xia Chuan waved his hand again. Another batch of over 100 people was brought up by the golden-armored soldiers, almost filling the entire high platform. The executioners were now the Cloud Dragon army soldiers who escorted them up. Clicking. The Cloud Dragon army soldiers raised their knives and heads rolled continuously on the high platform. Xia Chuan still did not speak, merely kept waving his hand amid everyone's bewildered gazes. This cycle repeated for 6 rounds. After at least 700 or 800 people were killed on the high platform, Xia Chuan finally stopped waving his hand. Clatter. The volume of blood splattered when someone was beheaded was already shockingly great, and with nearly 800 people being continuously killed on the platform, the entire platform was almost dyed red with blood, with some blood even dripping down from the eaves of the platform. Such a scene of rivers of blood left even the executing Cloud Dragon army soldiers, and those cold resistance level individuals like Yuan Dao, Yue Feng, and Hu Jing standing on the high platform, feeling somewhat uneasy. As for the tens of thousands below, they didn't dare move, not even a little. Some infants, still eagerly awaiting food, had their mouths covered by adults, not daring to make a sound. Everyone. Xia Chuan slowly walked to the front of the high platform, and gathering his energy into his throat, at the quietest moment in the square, He projected his voice to reach everyone. The Longshan Li family has been exploiting the people, oppressing the good folk, and has enslaved over 400,000 citizens of Longyu for decades, inciting public outrage and the wrath of the heavens. Now that our leader Xia Hong has taken control of Long Mountain, how can we allow it to continue? Xia Chuan's last rhetorical question was shouted out angrily, pointing towards the last wave of uncollected corpses on the high platform. Almost 60–70% of people in the square were startled with a shiver. There were a total of 788 executed just now, of which 438 were severely resisting during the siege last night. The rest were all members of the Li family. Chapter 786, Chapter 312, Regaining Focus, Killing, Shock, and Submission, Part 4. During last night's attack on the city, the casualties among the Cloud Dragon army soldiers were actually not many. The majority of the dead and injured were from the earth-digging realm of the 4 Zhejiang families and the 3 Yucheng families. These 438 individuals, whose resistance was particularly intense, all had more than 2 lives on their hands. Xia Chuan executed these individuals as a way to consider the feelings of the over 10,000 earth-digging realm members from the 7 families. Thus, when he announced this, the expressions of relief were apparent on the faces of the 10,000 earth-digging realm members maintaining order in the square. The total number of the Li family, including both their main family and relatives, is 372 people. According to their crime of defying the leader and resisting the Xia army, they should all be executed. However, our leader, who is benevolent and not bloodthirsty, has said that not all members of the Li family are vicious, and thus pardoned some of the Li family's relatives as well as. Xia Chuan paused at this point and then continued. Li Tiancheng, Li Xuanling, Li Xuanyan, and Li Xuandu. Well, the moment these 4 names were read out, there was an uproar below. Evidently, the great Xia's pardon of these 4 individuals was unexpected to everyone. Having killed over 300 people, nearly wiping out the Li family, yet sparing these 4 key individuals was indeed difficult for most to understand. However, among the crowd, there were some who showed expressions of joy. Meng Ying was among them, as well as Sun Yan, Jiang Ping, and the severely injured Yue Kaiyan, Song Kang, Cheng Guang, and so on. This group accounted for over a quarter of the crowd, at least more than 30,000 people. Although Li Tiancheng, Li Xuanyan, and Li Xuandu were the core offenders of the Li family, they were able to amend their ways and surrender with their followers in time, reducing a large number of unnecessary casualties. Therefore, the leader showed leniency. Though they escaped death, they cannot escape punishment. Li Xuanyan and Li Xuandu are ordered to leave Long Mountain within 5 days, and are prohibited from setting foot on Longyu land for 10 years. In consideration of Li Tiancheng's old age and his merit in surrendering, the leader permits him to stay in Great Xia and live out his days in peace. Upon hearing the outcome for these 3, Meng Ying and the others nodded slightly, but then immediately followed everyone in raising their heads, looking curiously towards Xia Chuan. There was still Li Xuanling unaccounted for. Xia Chuan knew what everyone was waiting for, and after a pause he continued to speak. Although Li Xuanling, the former leader of Long Mountain, was a member of the Li family, he was greatly virtuous. Not only did he voluntarily surrender, but he also assisted the leader in successfully capturing Li Xuanping and other cold resistance level members of the Li family, thus earning merit for Great Xia. The leader has already rewarded him. The entire crowd was instantly stunned. Meng Ying, Jiang Ping, Sun Yan, along with 8 others who had almost accompanied Li Xuanling last night to assassinate Xia Hong at the main building, were all dumbfounded. The others were unaware of what Li Xuanling had done, but the 11 of them knew very well. Why would Xia Chuan say such things? Their confusion was quickly resolved as Xia Chuan continued to speak. Oh, to facilitate the better and faster integration of Long Mountain's populace into Great Xia, the leader has decided, upon returning to Xia City, to select a date to marry Li Xuanling. Well, so it's a strategic marriage alliance. The 2 leaders getting married, doesn't that mean we're still Long Mountain people? So that's how it is, I thought so. Oh yeah? The entire crowd immediately erupted. The previously heavy atmosphere was instantly alleviated significantly. And Meng Ying and the other 11, after experiencing a series of emotional fluctuations, gradually returned to calm expressions. They first looked up at Xia Chuan on the stage, then turned to look in the direction of the main building, all showing a touch of admiration on their faces. So it's this way. Leader Xia's methods are truly astonishing. I doubt there could be a better way to handle this. Long Mountain really lost fair and square this time. I'm completely convinced. Chapter 787. Chapter 313. Preparations for migration, population surge, and placement of cold resistance level. From the moment Xia Chuan announced in front of hundreds of thousands that Li Xuanling was to marry Xia Hong, the staunch loyalists of the Li family lost any legal foundation for restoration. The tens of thousands in Long Mountain felt psychologically unburdened integrating into Great Xia. Xia Chuan gathered 120,000 people in such a grand manner, not intending to disperse them easily. Executing more than 700 was for intimidation. Announcing Xia Hong and Li Xuanling's engagement was for reassurance. These were merely the two most significant events of the night. There are over 10,000 people still imprisoned in the dungeon, with over 7,000 from the earth-digging realm, part of the Long Mountain garrison during Xia Hong's siege the night before. Among them, the more heinous 400 have already been executed, while the remaining have lighter offenses, but have indeed engaged in battle with the Xia army, thus subject to Great Xia's rules for captives. Xia Chuan has mitigated the punishment for these individuals, with the harshest requiring only 5 years of forced labor and the lightest needing just half a year. This accounts for over 90%. Following this was the abolition of the Longyu calendar, the announcement of the migration plan, and the resettlement plans post-migration to Xia City, including the current contribution value system in operation, the mechanism of the 6 ministries, and various treatments. Xia Chuan provided a detailed explanation. This migration is unlike previous ones. Long Mountain alone has nearly 13,000 people, accounting for Zhejiang, White Abyss, Xiling, and Dongqing. The total population is estimated to be over 26,000, more than double the current population of Great Xia, making it an extraordinarily enormous and complex task. Moreover, these people had their own housing at their original settlements, with even a small portion possessing private property. Persuading them to leave their homes and migrate to Great Xia would naturally involve considerable persuasion. Unsurprisingly, upon hearing about the migration, the crowd exhibited a strong resistance. Yet when informed about the contribution value system of Great Xia and the various supplies from the camp supply department, especially the exchange rates for beast meat, beast blood, Dan medicine, and cultivation resources, their expressions were first shocked, then somewhat dubious. Upon hearing Xia Chuan's depiction of Xia City's grandeur, they began to waver. Some bold individuals inquired directly, and after receiving Xia Chuan's personal assurances, some people's resistance gradually loosened. Minister, as ordinary people, can we exchange beast meat and beast blood, cultivation elixir once we arrive at Great Xia? Certainly, as long as you have contribution value, anyone can exchange. Minister, are the resources we exchange at the camp supply department truly ours, and can we dispose of them at will? Is that true? Yes, even if you discard them, no one will interfere. Minister, can we also build our own houses? Everyone can. Upon arriving at Great Xia, you must first reside in temporary wooden houses prepared for you, but with diligent logging and hunting, you can purchase land from the camp supply department to build houses. Once completed, that house becomes private property, which you can pass down through generations, with no one able to take it away. Minister, is it true that in Great Xia, every day, those below the logging realm are allocated 1 to 2 pounds of beast meat? Certainly, children under 6 receive 5 pounds per month. As Xia Chuan tirelessly answered all the questions posed by the crowd, the expressions among the crowd in the square visibly softened, and their resistance to migrating grew increasingly insignificant. The night was long, and Xia Chuan continually addressed their concerns without showing any sign of impatience. When the crowd fell silent, he would then speak about the wonderful items of Great Xia: clothing, fruits and vegetables, fine wine, refined salt, Dan medicine, artifact refining workshop, alchemy workshop, martial arts academy. Upon hearing these exotic and unheard of things, even the ordinary people, those at the logging realm or even earth-digging realm, and the cold resistance level individuals like Meng Ying among them, couldn't help but widen their eyes, their faces full of curiosity. People always strive upward, while water flows downward. Whether or not they are willing to migrate primarily depends on whether their living conditions would improve, which is undoubtedly the case. Xia Chuan dared to gather tens of thousands of people together, describing Great Xia's situation openly and transparently, because of Great Xia's superior living conditions and equitable resource allocation system. The concept of private property alone was enough to attract everyone from Longyu. Despite Long Mountain's prosperity, the notion of private property was limited to the cold resistance level class and the small number of people stemming from that class. The vast majority of ordinary people from Long Mountain still had to rely on the camp's unified provisions for their clothing, food, housing, and transportation. Therefore, hearing about having their own homes immediately sparked a visible sense of excitement on their faces. Everything that followed was essentially within Xia Chuan's prediction. Approximately over 80% agreed to migrate to Great Xia, while the remaining, even if they did not consent, were overshadowed by the immense crowd. With only the last hour before dawn, Xia Chuan voluntarily ceased the conversation, signaling Yue Feng's 10-member team to lead everyone out of the square in an orderly manner. Meng Ying and others, along with their families, had been escorted to the square by Liu Yuan and more than 300 Cloud Dragon army soldiers, so during their exit, they had to follow Liu Yuan's group back to the main building. The prohibition against them by Great Xia was still in effect, so they had to be confined in that main building, unable to move freely. On the way back to the main building, Jiang Ping, Sun Yan, and the other 8 cold resistance level individuals were visibly unsettled as they whispered among themselves. It seems this integration will be much faster than we anticipated. If it's truly as Xia Chuan says, then Great Xia's benefits are surprisingly good. Anyone can receive beast meat, beast blood, and even beast bone is available for exchange. From logging realm to cold resistance level cultivation elixir can be exchanged without any restrictions, all freely available for exchange. How will the Xia family maintain control over the camp? Chapter 788, Chapter 313, Preparations for Migration, Population Surge and Placement of Cold Resistance Level, Part 2. Without the Xia family, I've already inquired. Leader Xia has no other blood relatives besides his younger brother Xia Chuan. Don't you think the current situation in the Great Xia camp is very similar to the early days of Long Mountain, led by the old leader? Upon hearing Meng Ying's words, everyone was momentarily stunned, and then a complex expression appeared on their faces as they nodded in unison. Among these 11 people, the youngest, Gongsun Fu, was already 47 years old. They were all people who had followed the old leader Li Tianhua in tough times, so they were well aware of the situation. In its early days in Longyu, the Longshan camp had no Li family, much like the Great Xia now. It was just the brothers Li Tianhua and Li Tiancheng with everyone united around them, gradually nibbling away and annexing the surrounding camps, expanding the population, developing and growing more powerful, steadily ascending to the throne of Longyu's overlord. At that time, perhaps no one could have imagined that Long Mountain would one day be annexed. Thinking of this, the former members of Long Mountain showed wistful expressions and couldn't help but sigh. Xia Hong and Xia Chuan will eventually develop into an influential Xia family, a situation of single-family dominance. It's a fate that can't be avoided. The upper echelons will gradually decay over time. I guess all camps will eventually follow the old path of Long Mountain. That's right, yesterday's Long Mountain, tomorrow's Great Xia, it's likely a cycle. Great Xia will never become Long Mountain. Meng Ying had not finished speaking when a rather sharp voice interrupted him. Greetings, Minister. Even before they turned around, Liu Yuan and over 300 Cloud Dragon army soldiers had already bowed and saluted towards the back. Meng Ying and the others froze and turned to see Xia Chuan approaching from behind, realizing that everything they had just said had been heard. Their expressions instantly became anxious. We were just speaking nonsense. We hope Minister will forgive us. Please forgive us, Minister. Xia Chuan, dressed in a white silk robe made of snow bamboo silk, carrying no weapons, only a beast bone pendant hanging at his waist, approached the group with a gentle smile, extending his hand to offer them a lift. No need to be so tense, please rise. Earlier, when Xia Chuan waved his hand on the high platform, blood flowed like a river, giving an impression of extreme cold-bloodedness and brutality. Now, upon close contact, he presented this gentle and approachable demeanor, creating a sharp contrast that intensified the anxiety in Meng Ying and the others' hearts. Newcomers to Great Xia may not be well acquainted with my brother, and it's understandable to have such reflections on yesterday's Long Mountain and tomorrow's Great Xia. Over time, once you've stayed in Great Xia longer, you will naturally realize. Xia Chuan paused slightly, his expression solemn as he continued. My leader Xia Hong has a broad vision, employing talents without bias, recognizing abilities irrespective of social status, often discovering talents from humble beginnings. In just 3 short years, the Great Xia camp has grown from a size of less than 100 to hundreds of thousands, which is enough to prove this point. Great Xia is not, nor will it ever be, the private property of the Xia family alone, nor will it have distinctions such as Xia family and outsider like Long Mountain. Before entering Longyu, our Great Xia had a total of 37 cold resistance level individuals, spanning nearly 30 surnames. One could say that today's camp stands because of these outsiders. Why would we sever our own arms and distinguish between us and them? Before Meng Ying and others could react to these words, the surroundings, including Liu Yuan, Yue Feng, and the over 300 Cloud Dragon army soldiers, had already turned visibly excited. Xia Chuan's words alone might not seem convincing, but paired with the expressions of Liu Yuan, Yue Feng, and other hundreds of Great Xia people, it was entirely different. Meng Ying and others withdrew their gazes from Liu Yuan and others, exchanged a few glances, then bowed to Xia Chuan in unison, offering a solemn salute. It is a shame for a defeated army to talk about surrender, but a wise leader accepts submission with virtue. Henceforth, we are willing to serve the leader, serve Great Xia, and serve the minister with utmost diligence. Meng Ying and the others were not fools. Just from observing the reactions of everyone in Great Xia the previous day, they could deduce the order of importance for Great Xia, Xia Hong, and Xia Chuan in people's hearts. Therefore, they intentionally placed Xia Hong first, followed by Great Xia and Xia Chuan. Sure enough, upon hearing Meng Ying and others' words, not only Xia Chuan, but also Liu Yuan, Yue Feng, and other cold resistance level individuals beside him all smiled. Very good, by the way, do remember to notify that at dawn, all cold resistance level individuals must go to the main hall to see the leader. Don't forget it. Understood. After Xia Chuan finished speaking, he waved his hand and entered the main hall first with Liu Yuan and the Cloud Dragon army soldiers. Seeing Xia Chuan leaving with the Cloud Dragon army, Meng Ying and others were initially at a loss, then realized they were now free. They immediately became excited. To Xia Chuan, the surrender of these 11 people was still quite significant. There were a total of 56 cold resistance level individuals in Long Mountain. Just on the high platform, 29 were executed. Xia Hong killed one during last night's siege, and subsequently, Bai Lu Gui controlled Li Xuanchen, who was slain. Li Xuanyan and Li Xuandu would both be expelled from Longyu. After excluding Li Xuanling and Li Tiancheng, only 21 remained. Out of the 21, Yue Kaiyan, Cheng Guang, Song Kang, along with 7 others, 10 in total, were severely injured. Meng Ying and these 11 were the only remaining cold resistance level individuals in Long Mountain who were in normal condition. With these 11 people helping, the difficulty of migrating the population would greatly decrease, which was why Xia Chuan deliberately caught up with them and said such words. Of course, recruiting these 11 was one of his tasks as well. Chapter 789, Chapter 313, Preparations for Migration, Population Surge and Placement of Cold Resistance Level, Part 3. Second year of Great Xia, July 8th. Kriug Kriug. An even more bone-piercing cold than the night gradually swept across the land. The furious wind and frost struck the western mountain slopes, colliding with all the wooden houses in the long mountain base, immediately producing a series of creaking sounds. It's daylight now, right? Why do I feel it's not as cold as before? You just noticed. Last night the temperature wasn't as low as usual. Didn't you notice? Among the people gathering at the square last night, there were many children, even infants. Would they have held up like this at normal times? What do you mean? Are you saying the temperature has already risen? Temperature started rising on the night of the 26th. It seemed like after the last wave of chaos in the camp, the temperature suddenly increased quite a bit. I felt it early on. I heard that the new leader has an artifact that can make the base warmer. The minister mentioned last night. It's called the Holy Tripod of Great Xia. Right, the night before, I saw that holy tripod near the dungeon. It was carried in by 10 people. What's this about the 26th? The Longyu calendar has been abolished. The night before should have been July 6th, second year of Great Xia. Yes, haha, I forgot, today should be the 8th. Long Mountain is not lacking coal, so staying inside the base makes the sensitivity to temperature less acute. Adding to that, Long Mountain had just changed leadership, and everyone was so anxious that they didn't even notice the temperature had risen significantly. After last night's great assembly, everyone's mood relaxed considerably. As soon as daylight came, they immediately noticed that the current temperature inside the base was much higher than usual. Coincidentally, during last night's assembly, Xia had spoken about the holy tripod, so everyone quickly connected it, and out of curiosity, naturally sparked another wave of discussion focused on the holy tripod. Setting aside this discussion for now, the main hall of Longshan main building became truly lively after dawn. From the moment it was light out, people continuously entered the main hall. Some entered directly from outside, while others came up the stairs. Upon entering and seeing the main seat above was empty, everyone first saluted Xia, standing at the first position on the left, before slowly moving to the middle of the hall. Their positions were astutely in accord. Yuan Dao, Yue Feng, Liu Yuan, Peng Bo, Chen Ying, and 13 other cold resistance level warriors of the Great Xia stood at the front. Behind them were 7 cold resistance level warriors from the Hu Jing, Yu Bin, Dongzhang, and Meng Ying families. Further back were the 11 newly arrived cold resistance level warriors from Long Mountain, including Meng Ying, Sun Yan, and Jiang Ping. The last row comprised 5 people: Li Hu, Yang Zhang, Yan Donghai, Wang Bio, and Liu Gu. The expressions of the 5 in the last row were somewhat anxious, especially Li Hu and Yang Zhang. Since they had arrived earlier, the newly entering 11, including Meng Ying, deliberately paused their gazes on them as they entered the hall. Yan Donghai and the other 2 were likely just not used to seeing so many cold resistance level warriors, coupled with their own cultivation not being high, leaving them inevitably nervous. "Is everyone here?" A voice suddenly came from the head position, and those waiting raised their heads to find Xia Hong had already slowly emerged from the back. "Greetings, leader." Xia did not reply, but was the first to bow in salute. "Greetings, leader." Upon seeing this, everyone hurriedly followed him in bowing in the direction of the head. "No need for formalities, rise." After Xia and the others stood up, he responded, reporting to the leader, "There are a total of 41 cold resistance level warriors in Long Mountain. Yue Kaiyan, Song Kang, Cheng Guang, Su Shicheng, Zhang Jieling, Yuan Shan, Yuan Ning, Lu Yushan, Wang Tao, and Liu Chang are all in a seriously injured state and unable to move. Aside from these 10, the remaining 31 are all present." Having spent 2 days with Li Xuanling, Xia Hong had familiarized himself with the cold resistance levels within Long Mountain, recognizing the 10 names Xia mentioned. The likes of Yue Songcheng were injured during last night's assassination attempt on him. Su Shicheng, Zhang Jieling, and Yuan Shan were 3 cold resistance level warriors seriously injured during his takeover of the city the previous night. Yuan Ning, Lu Yushan, Wang Tao, and Liu Chang were 4 severely injured during the Beehive attack. Originally, 6 were seriously injured in Long Mountain during the Beehive attack, but 2 were Li family loyalists who were executed last night. Xia Hong's gaze swept over the 31 present, giving special attention to the third-row individuals like Meng Ying, Jiang Ping, and Sun Yan among the 11. Then he continued to ask, "There should be more cold resistance level warriors in Longyu, right? Have you done a tally?" "Of course there are more. This time Great Xia annexed all the bases in Longyu, except for Hu Jing from Zhejiang, who brought all 3 cold resistance levels with him. Xiling and Dongkang only had 2 leaders each, Yu Bin and Dongzhang." Xia had clearly done his homework and promptly replied, "Yu Cheng and Long Mu from Xiling, Dong Si and Ying Wuji from Dongkang, plus Chen Yingba and Wu Tangxing, who are notifying the 7 outposts in Zhejiang to prepare for relocation, making a total of 6 people. 41 plus 6 totals 47. The cold resistance levels from Beehive have returned to Great Xia for recovery, right?" Hearing this question, Xia immediately realized what Xia Hong wanted to know and quickly replied after a brief pondering. Reporting to the leader, this Longyu campaign added 34 new cold resistance levels. With Xia City's current 41, our total number of cold resistance levels in Great Xia should be 75. In the end, Xia truly understands him. Upon hearing this number, Xia Hong's eyes lit up immediately. He remembered that when he came with the army to Longyu at the end of June, There were 37 cold resistance level warriors in Great Xia. The problem was that 3 fell during the beehive battle. Subtracting those, it should be 34. However, Xia Chuan reported 41, meaning 7 more had broken through to cold resistance level in the meantime. Chapter 790. Chapter 313. Migration Preparations, Population Boom, Cold Resistance Level Arrangements /4. People. This number surpasses the peak cold resistance level during the Long Mountain's prime. Moreover, since the Great Xia set out for Longyu in April, they have captured quite a few cold resistance level captives. Xia Chuan clearly realized this too and quickly continued. In the April beehive battle, we captured Hu Ming, Hu Ying, Hu Bing, and Lin Yi. In the Battle of Changbai Gully, we captured Zhou Yuan, Li Yuanqing, and Cheng He. In the Battle of Ning Yuan Hill, we captured Hu Ming and Wang Glai. Adding the head leader's own captures of Hu Tong, Hu Quan, Zhang Qingyuan, and Lu Yin, Xia City is currently holding a total of 13 cold resistance level captives. With Hu Hu's escape and Long Mountain's submission, the unification of Longyu means it's virtually certain these 13 people will later join Great Xia. No, one of them from the Li family probably won't make it. Excluding this one, Great Xia already has a total of 87 cold resistance level individuals. Even without mentioning Great Xia's humble beginnings on the mud slope 3 years ago, people on the Xia City side probably couldn't have imagined the camp's cold resistance level numbers have grown so many without realizing. What others think, Xia Hong isn't sure, but he, along with Xia Chuan, Liu Yuan, and many others from Great Xia, felt visibly more invigorated after calculating the number 87 in their minds. In fact, the faces of Zhejiang's 7 Hu Jing members, as well as Meng Ying and others from Long Mountain, were filled with surprise. The number 87 evidently had a significant psychological impact on them too. The 5 people at the back, Li Hu and Yang Zhang, go without saying. You've probably also tallied the number of people to be migrated this time. How do you plan to move them smoothly to Xia City? Tell us all about it. Xia Hong temporarily suppressed his excitement and began inquiring about the migration. Xia Chuan nodded, stepped forward, and said, "This migration mainly involves the 5 clans of Long Mountain, Zhejiang, White Abyss, Xiling, and East Kang. I've only made a preliminary count, and the 5 households are estimated to have a population of over 260,000, including more than 27,000 in the earth-digging realm and over 70,000 in the logging realm. With such a large population, the normal method of migration would be too slow. I propose letting Mu Dong bring a batch of craftsmen to Longyu, and together with people from 5 stations, construct 5 direct roads connecting Wushuang. Once the direct roads are completed, the entire population of the 5 clans can quickly be moved to Xia City. Given the current manpower in Longyu, I estimate the construction period will be no more than a month and a half. Once the 5 direct roads are completed, subsequent migrations can be completed within half a month at most. Wushuang happens to be at the center of Longyu, closest to the positions of the 5 stations in Long Mountain, and conveniently has a direct road connecting to the beehive. So, once the people from the 5 stations reach Wushuang, they can use the direct road to reach Xia City. Xia Chuan's approach clearly saves both time and effort. If people were really sent back and forth as escorts, it would probably take half a year to migrate these 260,000 people. Very well, proceed as you suggested. Send someone to notify Mu Dong to complete it by October. Is there any problem with that? Xia Chuan immediately nodded in response. Absolutely no problem. Rest assured, leader. Xia Hong nodded, glanced around at those below, then fixed his gaze on Hu Jing, Meng Ying, and others, saying with a smile, "With so many distinguished cold resistance levels joining Great Xia, I should, by right, establish an additional department outside the existing 6 ministries specifically to place people like you." The 18 newly joined cold resistance levels, realizing that what Xia Hong was about to say involved their future status in Great Xia, all immediately perked up. The night before, Xia Chuan had explained the current system of Great Xia and the regulations of the 6 ministries in the North District Square, and these people had all been present, so they understood what Xia Hong was saying. The hunting, military needs, logging, craftsmen, governance, civil affairs. Currently, the 6 ministries of Great Xia all have leaders, who are all cold resistance levels since they are reputable. They can't just casually join a department and work as assistants. Hence, setting up a new advanced department like the Longshan Council, outside the 6 ministries to place them, makes absolute sense. However, it was clear Xia Hong's words were not finished. Everyone dared not interrupt and continued listening. But in my great Xia, there is no precedent for assuming high positions upon joining. Moreover, your situations are all different. For instance, Hu Jing, Yu Bin, Dong Zhang, and others, 7 in total, led 4 clans with over 7,000 earth-digging realms to assist Great Xia in capturing Long Mountain, indeed merited. While Meng Ying, Sun Yan, and others, a total of 21 from Long Mountain, though later surrendering meritoriously, their previous offenses in the attack on the Beehive counterbalance it, so strictly speaking, none of you have accomplished anything for Great Xia. Similarly, Xiling, Su Cheng Long Mu, Dong Kang's Dong Si, Ying Wuji this time, neither exerted any effort, likewise accomplished nothing. Xia Hong went on to identify each of the newly joined cold resistance levels, then after pondering for a moment, continued. How about this? The credits of Hu Jing 7 will be collectively awarded along with others when we return to Xia City in October. All newly joined cold resistance levels this time are treated equally and temporarily placed in the hunting department under Yuan Dao's command. No special treatment, all placed in the hunting department under Yuan Dao's command. Below, Hu Jing and the cold resistance levels were all instantly stunned. However, what Xia Hong said next immediately revived their spirits. This is only temporary. No need to rush. Once the camp's army achieves 5 divisions, I will establish a new military department, responsible for the construction and management of all Great Xia's forces, internal dispatch, and external warfare. To serve in the military department, having a military unit is fundamental, which should not be difficult for you. Therefore, in the next 2 months, you need to pay attention in the hunting department. They had already heard about the conditions for forming a Great Xia army from Xia Chuan the night before. Any hunting team, upon advancing to an advanced level, qualifies to form an army. They are all formidable cold resistance levels, so collaborating with others to develop an advanced hunting team is not a challenging task. Obtaining the qualification to form an army is not difficult. In terms of military sources, they have an advantage over Great Xia's cold resistance levels, given the 27,000 earth-digging realms that came over from Longyu this time, originating from their 5 families. This military department sounds precisely prepared for them. The excitement of Hu Jing and the 18 others sharply contrasted with the solemnity of Great Xia's cold resistance levels. Xia Chuan even opened his mouth intending to say something, but after thinking briefly, he apparently understood something. His eyes shimmered, and a smile appeared on his lips. Apart from the newly added military department, there's another matter. To facilitate the reward discussions in October, I've added an initial concept of the 9th rank title system in Xia Li's 4 ceremonial chapters. Xia Chuan, take this to review, discuss with others, and let me know if there's anything to be supplemented. This needs to be finalized before October. 9th rank title system. The mere mention of these 5 words left everyone feeling inexplicably impressed. Xia Chuan stepped forward, took the booklet from Xia Hong, scanned it briefly, and his expression immediately became animated. Chapter 791, Chapter 315, New Policies for Long Mountain, Cold Apple Tree, and the Silver Mine. Regarding the issue of the nobility system, there is still a long time for you to consider it. Now let's talk about the 8 new deployment points in Longyu. Xia Hong directly interrupted Xia Chuan. Seeing that everyone was looking over, he continued. Longyu has a total area of 13,000 square kilometers. Currently, except for the Yanglu realm, the rest of the area is considered part of our Great Xia. According to the usual practice, each of the 8 deployment points should have a defense envoy in charge. However, the situation at the Long Mountain deployment point is clearly somewhat special. What do you think should be done? Everyone lowered their heads in thought for a moment, and soon understood Xia Hong's meaning. The Long Mountain deployment point is not only large enough to accommodate tens of thousands of people, but also, because of the presence of the Iron Stake Wall, its city defenses are extremely strong. It also backs onto Long Mountain, the largest resource hub, with astonishing amounts of coal and iron mines, and being the most important spiritual medicine production area in all of Longyu. From any angle, its importance far exceeds all other deployment points in Longyu. The key is, such an important strategic deployment point is still on the very edge of Great Xia's territory. Xia City is the main base, and certainly cannot be moved lightly. But a vast place like Long Mountain also cannot be relocated. Thus, some thought must be given to the Long Mountain deployment point. Simply appointing a defense envoy like at other deployment points is definitely not sufficient. All the entrances to the main ridge of Long Mountain are here. In the future, a large number of people from the camp will come to cut down trees and hunt. This place will inevitably become an important resource transit hub for our great Xia. For such an important position, I propose to send Deputy Director Xi Ping from the Garrison Department to garrison here, and also establish subordinate institutions of the 6 ministries here, so as to cover all the people at the 7 deployment points in Xiling, White Abyss, Zhejiang, Changning, Songyuan, Wushuang, and Yuchang. Xia Chuan reacted quickly and immediately offered a solution. Upon hearing this, everyone showed approval on their faces. However, Xia Hong did not immediately nod in agreement, but first raised an eyebrow and asked, "Has Xi Ping reached the cold resistance level?" Although Xi Ping is the deputy director of the garrison department, Xia Hong remembered very clearly that when he set off from Xia City at the end of last month, Xi Ping had only reached the earth-digging realm limit cultivation. At this moment, Xia Chuan confidently recommended Xi Ping, which should not be surprising if Xi Ping had broken through. Sure enough, Xia Chuan nodded and smiled. Xi Ping has successfully broken through during the recent Hive Guard battle. Not bad. Xia Hong first expressed approval of Xi Ping, but still did not agree with Xia Chuan's proposal. Sending a heavyweight to garrison and establishing subordinate institutions of the 6 ministries to strengthen ties with Xia City is certainly the right idea. The problem is, your proposal is good, but I have a question. If I appoint Xi Ping, the deputy director, to preside over Long Mountain and set up subordinate institutions of the 6 ministries, then who will have the final say on the operations of the entire Long Mountain? Of course, Deputy Director Xi. Xia Chuan reflexively answered, but before he could finish saying the word Ping, he already keenly perceived the deeper meaning of Xia Hong's question. His face slightly tightened, and he lowered his head in thought. The original intention of setting up deployment points was for Great Xia to govern a region, or to put it more broadly, for Xia City to continuously extract local resources. Who has the final say? Of course, it is Xia Hong, the leader, or rather, Xia City has the final say. However, according to my recent proposal, Long Mountain has both people and land, as well as strong city defenses, plus fully equipped institutions of the 6 ministries, which almost have all the key elements to form an independent camp. If the power is then handed over to one person, the consequences would be unimaginable if this person harbors malicious intent. Of course, Xia Chuan trusts Xi Ping, but this is about system design, unrelated to Xi Ping personally. In the future, as Great Xia's territory receives more key deployment points like Long Mountain, we cannot hope that everyone sent to guard them will be like Xi Ping. So the system is key. Not only Xia Chuan, but all the cold resistance level cultivators present clearly realized this as well. Everyone was thinking about how to address Xia Hong's concern. Leader, the 6 ministries already include the garrison department. Currently, the garrison department only has the position of defender. I propose to add a defender position, specifically targeting key deployment points like Long Mountain. The defender would nominally be the head of the deployment point, but would be equal to the heads of the other 5 subordinate institutions. During peacetime, each ministry would manage their own affairs, and only during wartime would the defender have authority over the other 5 ministries. Yue Feng spoke up, and immediately, Xia Chuan and the others, including Xia Hong above, their eyes lit up. The garrison department's responsibility is the defense of deployment points. In other words, the defender would nominally be the head of the deployment point, but during peacetime, they could only manage the defense of the deployment point and would be on the same level as the other 5 ministries, each reporting to their superiors, namely the 6 ministries of Xia City. Only during wartime would they have overarching authority. Very good, Yue Feng's proposal is excellent. Xia Chuan instantly grasped the cleverness of Yue Feng's suggestion. The defender being equal to the chiefs of the other 5 ministries, and each only needing to report to their respective superiors, means that the chiefs of the 6 ministries in Long Mountain would have a form of mutual supervision, effectively sharing the power within the deployment point, inevitably forming checks and balances among them. Indeed excellent, Yue Feng. You have been the garrison of Mirror Valley for quite a while, right? Yue Feng was already delighted when his proposal was accepted. When Xia Hong suddenly mentioned his current position, he was momentarily confused, then immediately realized something, and his expression instantly turned excited. Reporting to the leader, subordinates have served as the garrison of Mirror Valley since March of the first year, and it has been 1 year and 4 months so far. Chapter 792, Chapter 315, New Policies for Long Mountain, Cold Apple Tree and the Silver Mine, Part 2. In April, the march begins from Xia City to Longyu. In May, the population of Beehive, Hankyang, and Wushwang relocate to Xia City. By the end of June, the Cloud Jiao army departs, and in early July, the troops move to Beehive. 4 months of consecutive large-scale personnel movements, and not a single mistake in Mirror Valley. Your contributions are significant. Mirror Valley serves as a transition point between Redwood Ridge and Pinksy Plain, and the direct road extending south to Xia City passes through Arrow Bamboo Forest. 4 months of frequent personnel shifts without a single issue proves Yue Feng's administrative capabilities. The leader praises me excessively. Compared to the brothers who fought bloodily, what I did behind the scenes is nothing. Their contributions are significant, but so are yours. There's no need for undue modesty. Xia Hong waved his hand, knowing well that victories in any war involve various factors, not just the efforts of a single person or army. Those fighting bloodily at the front are important, and so are those responsible for logistics and transportation at the rear. Moreover, Yue Feng also participated in the Hive Guard battle, fighting bloodily on the battlefield. With the director of Yuan Cheng not here, I won't be leaving Long Mountain anytime soon, and I won't appoint anyone as Longshan Guardian for now. When I return to Xia City in October to discuss merits, we'll decide then. This almost denotes Xia Hong's intention to appoint Yue Feng as the Longshan Guardian. Everyone clearly understands and looks at Yue Feng with envy. Yue Feng can obviously perceive this, and his spirits are further lifted. At this moment, Xia Hong is also feeling good, as this resolves the issue of the Long Mountain garrison point. In the future, regardless of territorial expansion, whenever key garrison points like Long Mountain arise, the method discussed today can be employed. Xia Chuan, follow the proposal Yue Feng just made. Determine the specific names, official titles, and ranks of the subsidiaries of the 6 ministries with your team. This counts as a new policy for Great Xia. Since it starts from Long Mountain, let's call it the Long Mountain New Policy. Whenever important strongholds emerge in the future, follow this method. In the next 2 months, besides the migration of populations and clearance of resources, notify Qiu Peng to lead the camp supply department to compile the achievements of those who participated in the Longyu campaign. This must include each individual's enemy kills, number of captives, and the specifics of seized materials. Of course, prioritize assembling the list of deceased soldiers, assign personnel to gather their bodies from various locations, return them to Xia City, and hand them to their relatives along with rightful compensation. Rest assured, leader, I will manage it immediately. Upon hearing the last statement from Xia Hong, Xia Chuan's face also grew solemn. This Longyu campaign saw considerable casualties at the camp. The Cloud Dragon army suffered over 400 losses, ordinary earth-digging realm soldiers around 3,000, not to mention the 3 cold resistance levels, Huang Yang, Zhu Ling, and Ying Chuan. A great victory inevitably comes with great loss. Before April, the total area of Longyu was over 900 square kilometers. By May, Beehive, Wushwang, and Hankyang were conquered, expanding the territory to 3,000 square kilometers. This time, it exceeded expectations, taking over entire Longyu, expanding the territory directly by nearly 15 times to 13,000 square kilometers. Compared to a 15-fold territorial expansion, Great Xia's sacrifices this time are considered relatively minimal. All right, if there's nothing else, let's adjourn now. Just that you and Yuan Dao are both here, let's first establish the structure of the 6 ministries for Long Mountain and resume normal life for these 120,000 people as quickly as possible. The migration has officially begun, and waiting for all 5 direct roads to be constructed will take until at least September. In the subsequent 2 months, over 10,000 people will continue living in Long Mountain area, so naturally, they cannot maintain the current state indefinitely. Understood, leader, but I have one more issue to bring up. What is it? Speak. Having stood up ready to leave, Xia Hong stopped immediately upon hearing Xia Chuan's words and looked at him with curiosity. Recalling the leader's attack incident 2 days ago, it truly was perilous. To prevent similar situations in the future, I believe it's necessary to establish a special army dedicated to the leader's safety." Upon hearing this, Liu Yuan, Yue Feng, and the others immediately nodded in agreement. "Personal guards." Xia Hong's face appeared somewhat peculiar, about to speak, but Xia Chuan continued. "Currently, the Cloud Dragon Army is the most elite in Great Xia. Let those 600-plus members shift to become the personal guards, staying by the leader's side, awaiting reinforcements later." "Forget it." Xia Hong promptly gestured to interrupt Xia Chuan, adding peculiarly, "Indeed, a personal guard is necessary, but with the current strength of the Cloud Dragon Army, if they're by my side, am I protecting them, or are they protecting me?" Upon hearing Xia Hong's counter-question, Xia Chuan and others were taken aback, soon sinking into silence. Nevertheless, not everyone reacts the same. With the scouting camp Colonel Liu Yuan from the Cloud Dragon Army, he drops his head in shame. Around the perimeter of the hall, many Cloud Dragon Army soldiers were standing. Xia Hong's voice was loud, and upon hearing, most flushed with embarrassment, hanging their heads in silence. Xia Chuan appeared persistently determined, attempting to persuade. But Xia Hong quickly gestured to interrupt him, stating, "My personal guard shouldn't just appear at night. When the camp has enough cold resistance level soldiers, then we'll discuss this further, but for today, enough has been said. Proceed with the meeting." The personal guard must have the ability to effectively serve its purpose to justify being established. Xia Hong does not expect them to truly ensure his safety, but wants them to respond at critical moments and help handle matters. Otherwise, it's a minor issue if they're unhelpful during sudden situations, but having to divert attention to care for them would be a massive joke. Chapter 793. Chapter 315. New Policies for Long Mountain, Cold Apple Tree and the Silver Mine Part 3. At present, even the Cloud Dragon Army that cannot appear during the day clearly does not meet Xia Hong's requirements for the personal guard. Seeing Xia Hong turn and leave, Xia Chuan also said nothing more, leading everyone to bow and send him off before turning back to continue the meeting with the others. This meeting, which lasted for 2 hours, could only be considered as Xia Hong clearly defining their main objectives for the next 3 months. To achieve these goals, the tasks Xia Chuan and the others had to accomplish were numerous. They need to send someone to Xia City to inform Mu Dong to bring craftsmen to build the direct road, start setting up the subordinate agencies for the 6 ministries on Long Mountain, resume normal hunting activities in Long Mountain and the other 7 outposts. Xia Hong appointed only 1 Longshan Guardian, but also needs to appoint defense envoys for the 7 new outposts. As Xia Chuan led everyone to conclude agenda item after agenda item, the number of people in the hall gradually dwindled. One by one, those with cold resistance level who received tasks left the hall, busying themselves with their own matters. The entire Longyu started to quickly integrate under the movements of these, with cold resistance level. Reserve supplies from the 8 outposts began to be categorized and counted, preparing to be uniformly transported to Xia City once the direct road is completed. The leadership of the 8 families also compiled all the important information previously under their control, such as spiritual medicine, cold beasts, minerals, Dan medicine recipes, rare items, etc., summarizing it into Xia Chuan of Long Mountain. Of course, it wasn't just supplies and information, but also household registration, population, and cultivation status. All preparations before relocation were proceeding in an orderly fashion. The 8 outposts with a population of 260,000 were just the foundation. Supplies were truly the main issue. Just the iron and coal mines alone, which hadn't been fully exploited, numbered over 100, not to mention the reserves in the 8 camps. Accurately counting them was likely problematic. Adding in other items, beast meat, beast skin, beast bone, beast blood, jade bone, spiritual medicine, special products, they were even more innumerable. Xia Hong did not arbitrarily give a 3-month timeline. This enormous and complex project was destined to take a very long time to complete. The 2nd year of Great Xia, July 12. In the deep night, approximately 15 kilometers into Long Mountain, 4 shadows, 2 in front, 2 behind, silently proceeded deep inward, walking until reaching nearly 20 kilometers deep, where they simultaneously stopped. The 2 front figures turned around, revealing themselves as Li Xuanyan and Li Xuandu. Both of their complexions appeared normal, which clearly indicated their injuries had healed. Behind them, An elderly man and a young woman were Li Tiancheng and Li Xuanling, respectively. "Second uncle, that's enough, send us off here. We need to be on our way." Unlike Li Xuanyan, who had a face full of hatred, Li Xuandu looked up at Li Tiancheng trying to smile, though it seemed somewhat forced regardless of how one perceived it. Especially when he noticed Li Xuanling's hair tied into a bun, Li Xuandu's expression became even more complex. His mouth opened slightly as if unsure what to say. Li Xuanyan was even more direct. He didn't bother looking at Li Xuanling and merely lifted his head to say to Li Tiancheng, "Second uncle, I will definitely return to Longyu." Upon hearing this, the expressions of Li Tiancheng and Li Xuanling immediately changed. "What nonsense are you spewing? Leader Xia has already shown leniency. Even if you truly miss second uncle, obediently wait 10 years before returning." A trace of anger arose on Li Xuanyan's face, and he immediately opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, Li Xuandu gently tugged at him. Meeting Li Xuandu's eyes, Li Xuanyan instantly realized something and promptly suppressed the fury in his eyes, gruffly saying, "Understood, second uncle. 3 years ago, I was also here bidding farewell to Big Brother, and now I send you two away as well, such is fate's mischief, alas." Li Tianhua gazed into the dense woods deep in Long Mountain, a touch of melancholy rising in his eyes. Li Xuandu turned to look at the dense forest behind him, suddenly asking, "Second uncle, do you think father might still be alive?" "Whether Big Brother is alive or not has nothing to do with you guys. Long Mountain's forest is deep and the road treacherous. Preserving your own lives would be remarkable enough." Li Tiancheng interrupted the topic Li Xuandu attempted to raise once more, then urged, "Enough, get going. No matter what, since Xuanling is married to leader Xia and Xuanchen left behind a descendant in Great Xia, even though there's enmity between the Li family and Great Xia, it's now undefined. If fortune permits you survival, live well and ensure the continuation of the Li bloodline, don't delve into other matters." Upon hearing these words, Li Xuandu's expression became instantly complex, but seeing Big Brother Li Xuanyan already turning to leave, he said nothing further and simply followed. "Third brother." Having remained silent all along, Li Xuanling finally could not contain her voice seeing Li Xuandu gradually walk away. While the redness in her eyes could be concealed by the night, the slight tremble in her voice could not. Li Xuanling's tone clearly carried a hint of sobbing. Li Tiancheng turned to see Li Xuanling beside him with tears streaming down her face, yet resisting to cry out loud, sighing softly in his heart. After all, she's just a 22-year-old young girl. Big Brother had her at over 70, having a daughter in his later years. At the time, sister-in-law was also in her 50s. Only a few months after giving birth to her, she passed away. Li Xuanling grew up without a mother. Though Big Brother doted on her, it was when Long Mountain was in its heyday, naturally unable to spare much time accompanying her. Given that her ages with the eldest and second elder were over 30 years apart, they couldn't play together, naturally lacking a deep connection. Chapter 794, Chapter 315, New Policies for Long Mountain, Cold Apple Tree and the Silver Mine. Only the third child, Li Xuandu, was 10 years older than her and willing to take care of her. Since childhood, he took her everywhere around Long Mountain, so among the four siblings, their personalities were the most alike, and their bond was the strongest. Now that Li Xuandu was leaving Longyu, Li Xuanling felt reluctant, which was perfectly normal. Li Xuandu, who had already walked far away, immediately stopped in his tracks upon hearing third brother, but he didn't turn back. He simply laughed and said, "Xuanling, the downfall of the Li family is their own doing. It has nothing to do with you. Leader Xia is a capable person. If you follow him, your life will definitely get better and better. In 10 years, third brother will definitely come back to see you and second uncle." This is generally the difference between having feelings and not having feelings. At this moment in Li Xuandu's heart, even though he still resented Xia Hong, he knew he was powerless to change anything, so he chose to give blessings instead, and even wanted to lessen Li Xuanling's sense of guilt as much as possible. Watching Li Xuandu walk further and further away, his figure quickly blurred, and Li Xuanling was already sobbing uncontrollably. She suddenly thought of something, turned abruptly to look behind her and pleaded with a tearful voice, "Xia Hong, I know you're here too. I beg you, spare my third brother, let him stay in Longyu, I beg you." Li Xuanling's cries and pleas did not eventually elicit a response from Xia Hong. Not until Li Xuandu completely disappeared did Xia Hong's voice come from behind. Get up, you know very well that I can't keep them. Li Xuanling had stopped crying, was completely limp on the ground, watching Xia Hong slowly approach from behind, her eyes full of hatred. Don't look at me like that. Based on what those two just said, if I chased after them and killed them, it wouldn't be too much, right? Xia Hong suddenly quipped, and seeing Li Tiancheng and Li Xuanling's expressions freeze, he laughed and continued. If they can really find Li Tianhua, perhaps your Longshan Li family can make a comeback. I gave you the opportunity. You shouldn't hate me, you should thank me instead. Arrogant. Li Xuanling couldn't help but scold. Knowing how intelligent she is, she could naturally hear the implication in Xia Hong's words. He was clearly saying that even if Li Xuandu and the others found Li Tianhua, it would be useless. Li Tiancheng on the other side didn't speak. He just bowed slightly and said, Leader Xia, there's no need for this. You've married Xuanling, so even if Big Brother comes back, I suppose he will eventually accept you as his son-in-law. Eventually, meaning Li Tianhua still needs to do something before acknowledging it. Xia Hong shook his head, saying nothing more, not picking at Li Tiancheng's words. Li Tianhua left Longyu 3 years ago, and he is already 98 now. If he had reached the Xianyang level with greatly increased longevity, he would have returned to Long Mountain long ago. Why wait until now? So he's either dead or hasn't made the breakthrough yet. Of these two possibilities, he fears neither. This is the reason he dared to let Li Xuanyan and Li Xuandu go. All right, I came today to see you two off and see those 2 cold apple trees, and the locations of those 2 silver mines. Xia Hong came today not to supervise the 2 of them. With the extended family the Li family has, and considering people like Meng Ying, Zhou Yuan, Jiang Ping, Li Tiancheng and Li Xuanling couldn't possibly run away with Li Xuanyan and Li Xuandu. If the 2 of them left, these people would struggle to make a living in Great Xia, not to mention that Xia Hong might take it out on them. He came today to inspect the most important assets of Long Mountain. The 2 cold apple trees and the 2 unexplored silver ore veins. Chapter 795. Chapter 315. The strange cold apple tree and the seized silver mine. I heard from Hu that out of the 2 cold apple trees, one was first discovered by his father Hu Hai, and later was taken by your Long Mountain. Is this true or false? With the cold apple trees almost in sight, Xia Hong was in a good mood. Recalling what Hu had said earlier, he asked the 2 people with great interest. Shameless. Li Tiancheng frowned as he led the way in front, but said nothing. Li Xuanling couldn't help but shout an insult. That cold apple tree was clearly first discovered by my father. Hu Hai didn't want Long Mountain to have it all to ourselves, so he joined forces with over 20 camps at the time to wage war against us, causing devastation in Longyu and reducing the number of camps to 12. My father relented in the end, giving them 70% of the share. Seeing Li Xuanling's furious stance with her brows raised, it seemed her words weren't untrue. Although Xia Hong had suspected that Hu probably lied to him, he didn't expect that the man could twist the facts to such an extent. And he said that from year 40 of Longyu, the yield of jade due from that cold apple tree was only 40 drops a year. Is that true or false? How about the other one? How many drops does it produce annually? Hu only knew of 1 cold apple tree. Clearly, Long Mountain had hidden another one, unknown to all of Longyu. What Xia Hong was most interested in now was the yield of jade due from the 2 cold apple trees. Li Tiancheng replied, I won't hide it from Leader Xia. Regarding the cold apple tree Hu mentioned, we really didn't deceive anyone. From year 20 of Longyu, the yield has been gradually decreasing. As of this year, it takes an average of 10 days to produce just 1 drop, totaling less than 40 drops a year. With the way they led, winding and turning, it was estimated that the location of the cold apple tree was still far away, so Xia Hong continued to inquire as they walked. What about the yield of the other tree? The other cold apple tree was discovered in year 31 of Longyu, and it's not that old. Last year, it produced over 240 drops. Goodness, they concealed a yield 6 times greater. No wonder, over the years, the power gap grew wider between the other 11 camps and Long Mountain. You said it takes 10 days to produce a drop, so does that mean the cold apple jade dew doesn't mature all at once and grows drop by drop? Xia Hong's face was full of confusion. Since it's called a cold apple tree, it shouldn't have left the realm of vegetation, with sprouting, blooming, bearing fruit, and maturing being the growth rules for all vegetation, just like Great Xia's currently discovered ice tree, blue jade tree, and other trees. But from Li Tiancheng's description, it was evidently not so. Country bumpkin. Li Xuanling, still holding a grudge, seized the opportunity to sneer at Xia Hong's ignorance of the cold apple tree. Unfortunately, Xia Hong completely ignored her, waiting for Li Tiancheng to explain. Watching Li Xuanling provoke Xia Hong, Li Tiancheng wore a strange expression and was about to explain when Li Xuanling preemptively spoke. The cold apple tree grows upside down underground. The jade dew is the liquid that condenses as it absorbs the ever-cooling light, so it naturally drips downwards along the root and stem. There are many plants that grow underground, but very few that can produce such a rare medicinal material as jade dew. Then speed up, take me there to see it for myself. Growing more curious about the cold apple tree, Xia Hong urged the two forward. Having just parted ways with Li Xuandu at a location 20 kilometers deep into Long Mountain, in half an hour, Xia Hong estimated that he had followed the two another 15 kilometers inward. This should be considered the main vein of Long Mountain, right? On the eastern outskirts of Long Mountain, there's a section extending from the main vein, about 50 kilometers north to south and 30 kilometers east to west. Following the two about 35 kilometers eastward, Xia Hong had reached what was considered the main vein of Long Mountain, very deep in. The cold apple tree who mentioned is just ahead. Li Tiancheng pointed to a location on the west side where a mound stood and took the lead with Li Xuanling walking over, Xia Hong right on their heels, quickly reaching the top of the mound. Beyond the mound was a valley recessed hundreds of meters downward. Standing at the edge of the mound and looking down, an extremely dazzling azure light immediately came into view. Let's move. After speaking, he directly headed down the slope of the ravine. Li Tiancheng and Li Xuanling followed close behind as they descended together. The leaves and branches of the cold apple tree were azure, the same color as jade bone. The overall shape resembled a stemless mushroom, like a domed canopy. This canopy is about 15 meters in diameter. How long is the root and stem? Having just heard Li Xuanling say that the cold apple tree grows underground, after observing the surface portion, Xia Hong, while asking this, walked under the tree, brushed away the surrounding soil, and was momentarily stunned when he saw the root and stem. The above-ground canopy of this cold apple tree was a 15-meter diameter dome. Xia Hong thought the root and stem should be at least half that, or 3 to 4 meters wouldn't be too much to ask. Yet in fact, its root and stem were only as thick as a pinky finger. Leader, please follow me. Li Tiancheng groped around the eastern stone wall of the ravine for a while, then gave it a hard push, revealing a hole. He took Xia Hong into the hole, explaining as they walked. The cold apple tree's root and stem are too thin, and their extension direction underground is entirely without pattern, so not only do we have to dig tunnels to find its end, but we also need to send people to verify its location once a year. Actually, Li Tiancheng didn't need to explain this point. Xia Hong understood it just by following them through the tunnels for a while. Chapter 796, Chapter 315, The Strange Cold Apple Trees and the Seized Silver Mine 2. Sometimes heading east, sometimes west, suddenly diving down and then climbing up a slope again. This tunnel was clearly dug according to the direction of the roots, extension, so convoluted and chaotic, it already proved what Li Tiancheng had said. The three of them had been walking underground for more than 10 minutes before finally reaching a circular stone chamber over 5 meters in diameter. In the center of the stone chamber, a thumb-thick jade-green root stood silently, surrounded by a dozen iron trays. Xia Hong counted them carefully. There were still 9 drops of jade dew that had not been collected. In about 10 minutes, based on our previous pace, we must have covered 7 or 8 kilometers, meaning the root's length exceeds 7,000 meters. After saying this, Xia Hong shook his head immediately. No wonder Long Mountain doesn't transplant this cold apple tree to the camp. A root length of more than 7,000 meters is already bizarre enough, coupled with the fact that it's only thumb-thick. Attempting to transplant it without damaging the root is too difficult. The key issue is whether the root can continue producing jade dew after being damaged, and no one knows that. Long Mountain only has these 2 trees. Leaving them untouched and slowly collecting jade dew seems to be the safest approach. It's a double-edged sword. Although the cold apple tree's root grows chaotically underground, which makes harvesting extremely difficult for us. Its chaotic growth, combined with its colorless and tasteless nature, means that even if a cold beast discovers the treetop above ground, they usually give up after failing to locate the root. Not only is it colorless and tasteless, but the root buried underground is only as thick as a pinky finger. Cold beasts, whose bodies can be several meters long, would find it nearly impossible to use their eyes to follow the root back here, even if they live underground. All right, take me to see the second one. Without changing his expression, Xia Hong took out a wooden box and collected the 9 drops of jade dew, then signaled for Li Tiancheng and the others to continue leading the way. The second cold apple tree was at the mountaintop, over 20 kilometers from the first. This tree's crown diameter must be over 100 meters. No wonder its yield is so high. Before even seeing the root, Xia Hong, upon observing the enormous treetop, understood why this tree's yield was so high. According to Li Xuanling, the cold apple tree absorbs cold light during the day through its crown, which then condenses into jade dew along its root. The larger the crown, the greater its capacity to absorb light, and naturally, its yield is higher. Not just the crown, but the second cold apple tree's root was also about 3 times thicker than the first, with a diameter of approximately 3 centimeters. The length of its underground root was even more incredible, stretching over 13,000 meters, nearly twice that of the first tree. Following Li Tiancheng back underground to the root's end, there were a lot more jade dew drops on the ground this time, as many as 70. We usually collect every 3 months, and as soon as the jade dew is brought back, it's immediately distributed to those at the cold resistance level, so there's hardly any stock at the camp. Upon hearing Li Tiancheng's words, Xia Hong raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Li Xuanling. The Long Mountain warehouse had long since been inventoried, and indeed not a drop of cold apple jade dew remained. This showed that Li Xuanling was a capable leader, with no point in holding onto jade dew when not distributing it for cultivation at the cold resistance level. Long Mountain's strength at this level was likely connected to her. However, Xia Hong's lips curled into a slight smile as he teased Li Xuanling. It looks like you've got 21 drops stashed away in your boudoir, reluctant to hand them over. You scoundrel, how dare you sneak into my room? Having her stash of 21 jade dew drops exposed, Li Xuanling wasn't particularly fazed, but realized that Xia Hong had already secretly rifled through her room. Her face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and anger, causing her to reflexively curse out loud. She hadn't even finished cursing when she remembered she had already been completely won over by Xia Hong. Getting mad about her room being invaded seemed rather ridiculous now. You always wear white clothes, yet your room is filled with red things. Woman, you sure have a split personality. Shut up. With her second uncle nearby, Li Xuanling was so embarrassed by the teasing that her face turned beet red, and she angrily stamped her foot and berated Xia Hong, almost feeling tempted to draw her sword. Xia Hong chuckled softly, shaking his head slightly before collecting the jade dew from the ground, and then pulling out a porcelain bottle from his bosom. From it, he poured out 2 spirit pills covered in a layer of black cracks and passed one directly to each of Li Tiancheng and Li Xuanling. The Holy Sun pill that Li Xuanchen put out is definitely problematic. If you still have any, I advise you to hand them over quickly. This Yangyuan pill was developed by our great Xia, specifically for cold resistance level cultivation. A single pill's medicinal power equals that of 3 to 4 pounds of jade bone medicine. The materials for brewing 3 pounds of jade bone medicine can make a batch of 9 pills, so if you have any cold apple jade dew, it'd be best to hand it over for brewing jade bone medicine. Otherwise, it's too wasteful. Upon Xia Hong's mention of the Holy Sun pill, Li Tiancheng and Li Xuanling's expressions subtly changed, but soon their attention was drawn again to the Yangyuan pill in their hands. A single pill having an effect equivalent to 3 to 4 pounds of jade bone medicine. With 3 pounds of jade bone materials able to brew 9 pills, the efficiency and medicinal effect would be at least 30 times greater than jade bone medicine itself. The 2 of them stared at the Yangyuan pill in their hands, their expressions instantly frozen in place. Chapter 797, Chapter 315, The Strange Cold Apple Tree and the Seized Silver Mine 3. Thank you, leader, for the spirit pill. Li Xuanxiang has taken out more than 30 Holy Sun pills before and after, and we've long been out of them. Li Tiancheng was the first to react and thanked Xia Hong. Li Xuanling wasn't so polite. She directly pocketed the spirit pill, pretending that nothing happened, and started walking forward. "Let's go. I'll take you to the locations of those 2 silver mines." Li Xuanling actually took the initiative to lead the way, which surprised Xia Hong a bit. Li Tiancheng quickly explained with a smile, "Those 2 silver mines, I've actually never been to either of them. I only heard about them from my elder brother. In the entire Long Mountain, only Xuanling has been there with my brother, so she's the only one who knows the locations." "So that's how it is." Xia Hong followed behind Li Xuanling, continuing to head deeper into Long Mountain. The first cold apple tree we just passed was 35 kilometers into Long Mountain. The second one, although 20 kilometers away, is actually to the north of it, so their depths are not much different. The location of this silver mine is clearly much more special. Li Xuanling led the 2 further in by about 10 kilometers. The 3 of them occasionally sensed prying eyes around them, and their expressions gradually became more vigilant. We've only explored a little over 40 kilometers of Long Mountain. At this depth, there are already quite a few advanced cold beasts, and even beast kings appear from time to time. So usually, except for cold resistance level teams coming here to hunt, no one else dares to come. Hearing Li Tiancheng's words, Xia Hong nodded slightly. Although it was the first time he'd heard of the term beast king, he almost immediately understood it. Beyond advanced cold beasts, there must be even more powerful cold beasts. This is almost unquestionable. Otherwise, where did so many cold beasts in Redwood Ridge, Arrow Bamboo Forest, and Long Mountain come from? Just to mention one thing, Xia Hong still hasn't figured out how cold beasts are reproduced. Judging by the density of cold beasts at the 3 locations of Redwood Ridge, they seem endless. No matter how many are hunted, new ones always appear. This is extremely terrifying. However, these are clearly not concerns Xia Hong should be having now. If one day he truly figures it out, his power will likely be extraordinary. Hoot hoot hoot. Li Xuanling had long signaled for the 2 to stop talking. After walking another 500 or 600 meters, she suddenly waved her hand to signal the 2 to stop, and then turned to meet their gaze. On all 3 faces, there was a tinge of gravity. "Is that breathing?" "It's too loud, isn't it? It feels like it can be heard from 3 or 4 kilometers around." "What kind of cold beast could be making that sound?" These 3 questions were softly asked by Li Xuanling and Li Tiancheng. Xia Hong remained silent, only looking eastward 3 kilometers away, his eyes filled with gravity. This presence, it matches the red carp monster we met on the Xing River north bank, exactly the same. Could this be the Beast King? Li Xuanling led the 2 up a large tree nearby, climbing to a height of over 30 meters before pointing to a mountain to the east and whispering, "Inside that mountain lies a silver mine, but a large frost wolf clan is entrenched in the mountain. My father said there are at least 10,000 of them, with at least a few hundred advanced frost wolves. There was no such breathing last time I was here, so it seems the clan has probably got a beast king now. Over 10,000 frost wolves, several hundred advanced ones, and a beast king." Looking at the distant mountain, Xia Hong shook his head with a slight sigh. "Take me to the second silver mine location then. This place isn't feasible for now." Chapter 798. Chapter 316. Blood, Jade, Fox, and Mischief. Xia City in turmoil. Migration begins. The second silver ore vein is about the same depth as the first one, but you need to head south for about 13 more kilometers. The form of the 2 veins is also different. The former is a mountain body, while this one is located in a slightly elevated hill area. However, the area of the hill is very large, with an estimated circumference of 25 kilometers. 2 kilometers away from the hill, Li Xuanling stopped and then led the 2 onto a nearby large tree. Upon climbing the tree, Xia Hong looked towards the hill and felt a shiver run down his spine. The side of the hill facing them was densely packed with a large group of silver-backed long-tailed rodents, a rough estimate of more than 3,000 just on the surface. Crucially, many rodents had their bodies burrowed underground, leaving only a section of their flesh-colored long tails swaying on the surface. Even at such a distance, Xia Hong noticed flashes of golden light among them, indicating the presence of advanced rodents. This is just the lower part. Moving up to the middle region of the hill, there are hundreds of golden armored thunder kui, each over 10 meters in length, and among the thunder kui, many parts of the ground were golden and fluid-like, indicating that some thunder kui were also burrowed underground like the rodent group. Further up at the top of the hill were numerous half-meter diameter cave entrances. Despite the distance making it hard to see inside, faint blood-colored iridescence could be discerned. This silver ore vein, though it lacks a beast king, is occupied by 6 cold beast species: rodents, thunder kiwi, bai rong, striped tigers, snow manes, and blood jade foxes. My father discovered this silver mine years ago when there weren't many cold beast species here, perhaps just over 10,000 in total, but their numbers have grown rapidly over the years, now estimated at nearly 40,000. Let alone dispatching people to mine it, even getting close for a look at the cold beast numbers has become difficult. Unlike his reaction upon seeing the first silver mine, Xia Hong did not shake his head and sigh this time, but instead displayed obvious interest. Although the number of cold beasts occupying this silver mine is 4 times that of the previous one, the mixed structure of the 6 cold beast groups without a beast king provides ample room for strategic maneuvering. There are mutual restraint relationships between different cold beast species. Great Xia has already discovered 3 pairs: rodents and Tengjiao, fire stone tigers and frost electric apes, white bears and thunder kiwi. The 6 cold beast species on this hill are likely to have natural enemies too. Additionally, Great Xia has torches that attract cold beasts, so with proper preparation and plenty of cold resistance level individuals, deploying enough cold beast groups and mining this silver mine is quite feasible. Of course, the preparations involved are numerous, and currently, Great Xia's understanding of cold beast species and the number of cold resistance level individuals are far from sufficient, making any progress short-term impossible. At least there's hope. Xia Hong was undeterred, and instead led Li Tiancheng and Li Xuanling to observe the other 4 cold beast groups around the hill. The northern side of the hill is occupied by 2 species, bai rong and striped tigers, unique cold beast types of Long Mountain. Xia Hong had already seen them in the storage at the base, so he showed no surprise. No need to mention snow manes, there are lots of them at Redwood Ridge. The caves at the top of the hill are the habitat of the blood jade foxes. They don't come out often, do they? Why haven't we seen any? Not seeing the blood jade foxes, Xia Hong asked curiously. The strongest among the 6 cold beast species are the blood jade foxes. Although small in size, with an intermediate length of just half a meter, their speed is more than twice that of the rodents, and their 2 golden claws are exceptionally sharp, easily tearing through cold resistance level skin membranes. The key is their ability to emit a colorless and odorless hallucinogenic mist when threatened. This mist can penetrate the skin membranes. If inhaled by those at the earth-digging realm, they immediately fall into illusions and die. The mist emitted by advanced blood jade foxes is difficult even for the cold resistance level to withstand. Li Xuanling, evidently well-versed in blood jade foxes, paused with an odd expression on his face before continuing. Moreover, the fur of blood jade foxes is extremely concealed. It's pure white in no light, but once illuminated, it turns into a crystal-clear blood jade color, making them extremely hard to hunt. Xia Hong understood immediately. In the ice abyss, hunting cold beasts occurs at night. In no-light conditions, they are white, seemingly unrelated to concealment, but considering this is the ice abyss world, where the ground is blanketed with snow and all vegetation is coated with frost, it makes perfect sense. The small size of the blood jade fox makes them blend with the snowy landscape at night, making them inherently hard to spot, let alone when factoring in their speed, which is twice that of the rodents, not to mention their claws and mist. These alone make them tough to deal with. Of course, Xia Hong also noted the odd expression on Li Xuanling's face. However, he said nothing more, just nodded and said, "All right, we've seen all 4 locations, let's head back." Li Xuanling and Li Tiancheng nodded and followed him to jump down from the tree. Yet, as the 3 jumped off the big tree and turned around, their expressions instantly froze. Hoot, 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 hoot. A very familiar heavy breathing suddenly came from behind. The 3 did not dare to turn back immediately, just slightly turned their heads to exchange glances, seeing horror and shock in each other's eyes. Chapter 799, Chapter 316, Blood Jade Fox and Mischief, Xia City in Turmoil, Migration begins. This breathing sound is just like what we heard at the first silver mine. Is that Beast King following us? Gulp. At this moment, even Xia Hong couldn't help but swallow, staying still for 3 to 4 breaths before abruptly turning his head to look behind. Li Xuanling and Li Tiancheng followed suit, looking behind them. Behind them, 100 meters to the west of the mud slope, stood a gigantic beast over 100 meters long and 10 meters tall at the shoulder. The beast's head alone was over 10 meters in diameter, covered in moonlit silver fur, with a circle of spikes around its neck over 10 meters long, resembling sharp steel spikes in the snowy night, intensely intimidating, with vertical cyan pupils like giant diamond-shaped doors, fixedly staring at the three of them without blinking. Wolf King, it's the Beast King from the first silver mine. It discovered us a long time ago and followed us from behind all the way. Run separately, or none of us will survive. After exchanging a sentence, Li Xuanling and Li Tiancheng immediately decided to escape separately, but just as they were about to move, Xia Hong stopped them. Wait, something's wrong. Xia Hong twitched his nose. A glint of light flashed in his left eye, and after staring at the giant wolf for a moment, the seriousness on his face disappeared instantly. What accursed beast playing tricks like this? Li Xuanling and Li Tiancheng were puzzled, not knowing what Xia Hong meant. You stay here, don't move, wait for me. But before they could inquire, Xia Hong left a sentence and drew the cold blood blade from his waist and charged toward the enormous Wolf King. Is this guy crazy? No, something seems amiss. With the Wolf King's size, the cold beast on the hill behind us isn't reacting at all. Li Xuanling's expression froze, and she immediately realized something. Over at the west side, Xia Hong had arrived in front of the Wolf King. Roar! The Wolf King's thunderous roar exploded in their ears. Li Xuanling instantly felt the surrounding land for dozens of miles start to tremble violently, and she turned to look at the hill behind them again. Seeing there was no movement at all, her expression turned grim. Truly trapped, it must be the toxic mist sprayed by the advanced blood jade fox. We've all inhaled it. How did he see it? Did you forget? When White Du Gu controlled Chuanshan's 6 men to assassinate him, he saw through it immediately. He must have some means to see through illusions and disguises. Putting aside their shock, Xia Hong was already smoothly engaged with the Wolf King. The Wolf King's size was just too large. Xia Hong, charging from the ground, seemed almost inconsequential. Even though he leaped very high, he could only reach the lower jaw of the Wolf King. Swishing. The cold blood is a horizontal blade, so Xia Hong often uses it for slashing, but this time he used it to hack, and his target wasn't the Wolf King's jaw, but the very lower part of its right forelimb. Hiss! A sharp shredding sound echoed as the Wolf King's right forelimb suddenly lifted, facing Xia Hong's cold blood blade, carving out 3 golden claw marks. Those golden claw marks seemed to slice through the air, leaving barely any discernible trajectory, appearing only for the moment when the Wolf King raised its claw, then directly clashed with Xia Hong's cold blood blade. Clang! A violent sound of gold and stone clashing erupted, bursting into a sky full of sparks. More than 30 bristles, this blood jade fox's strength is unexpectedly powerful. At the instant the cold blood blade and the golden paw clashed, the massive Wolf King body directly dissipated, revealing in front of Xia Hong a snow-white fox-shaped cold beast only 20-something centimeters with a half-meter-long fluffy tail. The sparks hadn't yet dissipated. The cold beast's originally snow-white fur, under the illumination of the fire, turned into a crystal-clear blood jade color, as Li Xuanling said, truly living up to the name of blood jade fox. Chirp! The blood jade fox's crimson pupils were filled with panic at that moment, because its paw had been directly severed a small portion by Xia Hong's cold blood blade. The strength with over 30 bristles was naturally not qualified to act fierce in front of Xia Hong. The blood jade fox reacted swiftly, abandoning even its paw to transform into a white blur, fleeing towards the east, the direction of the mudslope's nest. Already come knocking, and you still want to run. Unfortunately, Xia Hong didn't give it a chance. The blood jade fox hadn't escaped 10 meters when Xia Hong suddenly turned around, sprinting rapidly, and plunged the cold blood blade downward into the front end of the white blur. Sizzle! The cold blood blade pierced directly through the blood jade fox's neck, pinning it to the ground, though the blood jade fox was unwilling to give up, resisting, glaring fiercely at Xia Hong, emitting sizzle sounds from its mouth. Very quickly, however, it noticed something wrong. Its eyes filled with terror, twisting its head frantically, obviously trying to break free from the cold blood blade. But Xia Hong's strength was so terrifying, he gripped the handle tightly. The blood jade fox struggled for only 3 to 4 breaths before running out of strength. Xia Hong pulled out the blade, weighed the blood jade fox in his hand for a moment, then looked down at the cold blood blade which became much heavier, shaking his head slightly. Your blood-sucking speed is getting faster and faster. Just in this short time, you consumed 7 to 8 pounds. Next time I pull the blade faster, or else I will have to feed you with advanced beast blood in the future. The bleeding volume of an advanced cold beast is only 10 to 15 pounds, but the effect is 10 times that of intermediate beast blood and can be used for alchemy, considered extremely precious for Great Xia. Feeding it all to the blade leaves Xia Hong a bit heartbroken now. Chapter 800, Chapter 316, Blood Jade Fox and Teasing Boiling Xia City, Migration Begins Part 3. Li Xuanling and Li Tiancheng both walked over from behind at this moment. The two of them looked at Xia Hong. The shock on their faces still hadn't faded. They were clearly amazed by how easily and thoroughly he had slain a blood jade fox. You managed to kill a blood jade fox on your own. Li Xuanling couldn't help but exclaim, and after shouting, she looked at the blood jade fox in Xia Hong's hand, with a noticeable expression of desire flashing in her eyes. Li Tiancheng's mouth was agape, and after a long silence he slowly spoke. Leader Xia, your strength is exceptional and I admire you. Xia Hong didn't take their praise to heart, waved his hand, and suddenly turned to Li Xuanling, asking softly, "You're not thinking of wanting this blood jade fox, are you?" Li Xuanling's cheeks reddened upon hearing this. Surprisingly, she didn't refute this time. "Then keep thinking about it, let's go back." After Xia Hong finished speaking, he carried the blood jade fox and turned to leave. Li Xuanling was vexed by being teased like this. Her already slightly red cheeks flushed even further, and she stomped her foot, angrily shouting, "Pa, who said I wanted it? Xia Hong, you are insufferable." Li Tiancheng watched this scene from the side, shook his head repeatedly, and finally advised Li Xuanling a few words, pulling her along to follow behind Xia Hong, heading toward the station. Li Xuanling couldn't tolerate such teasing easily, and she was angry thus didn't speak to Xia Hong again the entire way. Upon nearly reaching the station, after Li Tiancheng had gone, she suddenly recalled something, took out a Yangyuan pill from her arms, thought for a moment, then directly chased after Xia Hong ahead. "Xia Hong, how much contribution value is needed to exchange for a Yangyuan pill in Great Xia?" The new policy was discussed and finalized on July 8th. Today is the 12th. Xia Chuan with Yu Wendao and others had already set up the 6 departments on this side of Long Mountain. Of course, Long Mountain is a subordinate organ, so it's not called a department but referred to as the 6 ministries. Additionally, Xia Chuan had also confirmed the titles for the positions within the 6 ministries. Guardian Department is called Defender, Camp Supply Department is Military Preparation, Artisan Department is named Artisan, Civil Affairs Department is Chief, Hunting Bureau is Mountain Yu, Logging Department is Medicine Lord. With the establishment of the 6 ministries, naturally, the individuals above the logging realm among the tens of thousands in Long Mountain have started registering in the Camp Supply Department, with exclusive contribution value records. As these measures unfolded, the resource distribution rules and contribution value system of Great Xia became clear to everyone. Li Xuanling asking about the price of Yangyuan pill proved she had quietly been paying attention to the matters regarding the 6 ministries and the contribution value system these days. Xia Hong slightly raised his eyebrows, replied, 3,000 points for 1 pill. Only those at cold resistance level can exchange as needed. Why? It's really overpriced, from what I saw being publicly stated by the Camp Supply Department. Submitting 1 advanced snow main to them only yields 15,000 contribution points. Based on the output of 3 caddies, you can refine 9 Yangyuan pills. Calculating at 3,000 points each, that's 27,000 contribution points. If you include the advanced beast skin, beast blood, and beast meat, which are of good value, the camp profits half the amount. What are you trying to say? Just say it straightforwardly without rambling. Xia Hong couldn't be bothered to debate this with Li Xuanling. Besides, the account isn't calculated like she said. The formula for Yangyuan pill, the requirement of 18 precious medicinal ingredients for refining, and the massive amount of coal, stone, and labor consumed during the process. The camp indeed profits, but definitely not as exaggerated as Li Xuanling claimed. Recalling Great Xia's meat allocation to reserves and children under 6 years old, including various initiatives in Long Mountain over the past 4 days, Li Xuanling evidently realized her position wasn't justified. She didn't lose her temper upon being interrupted. Instead, she softly spoke to Xia Hong. My second uncle is getting old. It's too dangerous for him to go out hunting advanced cold beasts with others. Can't the Yangyuan pills be allotted to him monthly? Upon hearing this, Xia Hong raised his eyebrow, looked at Li Xuanling and said, "You're saying that he wouldn't do anything, but I should directly allot him a few pills every month." Li Xuanling's expression was naturally nodding at this. Clearly, she still thought Great Xia was like the previous Long Mountain, where high-level individuals have special privileges. Someone like Li Tiancheng with considerable strength and seniority acquiring several Yangyuan pills monthly wouldn't be considered extraordinary. Do you know, since the establishment of the contribution value rule in Great Xia, who doesn't need to use contribution value to exchange for resources? Li Xuanling looked stunned for a moment, instinctively responded, "You, your brother Xia Chuan, and those who fought to the death among the cold resistance rank in Beehive probably all." One person, throughout Great Xia, only one person. Li Xuanling was taken aback by the interruption, realized the only possible person Xia Hong was referring to is himself, immediately showing an expression of disbelief. How's that possible? Why not? Otherwise, do you think? Why are so many people in Great Xia willing to voluntarily submit the cold beasts they hunted, including collected medicinal ingredients, mined iron ore, and coal stone? It's because this rule treats everyone equally. Everyone knows what the camp earns will ultimately return to them through the camp's supply department. Xia Hong paused here, then continued. Your second uncle has 27-7 main basic strength, bringing along a few people at cold resistance level to go out and hunt advanced cold beasts shouldn't be too difficult. If you're genuinely afraid of danger, even hunting intermediate cold beasts, with a tenth of the contribution value rate, exchanging for the Yangyuan pills needed for cultivation is very easy. With the cold resistance level among the camp greatly increasing, to prevent anyone from deliberately hunting intermediate cold beasts excessively for contribution points, Xia Chuan and Qiu Peng already promulgated a new regulation in mid-June. Cold resistance level hunting intermediate cold beasts can only exchange for 1/10 of the original value. Chapter 801, Chapter 316, Blood Jade Fox and Teasing Boiling Xia City, Migration Begins Part 4. The value of an intermediate cold beast is generally between 4,000 to 5,000, so 1/10 is about over 400 points. Approximately 30 would be equivalent to one advanced cold beast. Even so, for Li Tiancheng, it's enough to exchange for a Yangyuan pill. However, Xia Hong's response clearly did not meet Li Xuanling's expectations. She raised this issue clearly to vie for resource privileges for Li Tiancheng, but Xia Hong directly refused, making her little face immediately tense. Seeing Xia Hong walking directly into the camp as if not intending to pay her any further attention, she angrily asked, "What about me? What about my cultivation resources? The camp supply department has registered contribution values for everyone above logging realm in the camp in the past 4 days, but no one came to find me. Don't tell me you're afraid I'll cultivate too quickly and surpass you." Heavy. Xia Hong didn't stop but instead let out a contemptuous laugh and tossed a small porcelain bottle toward Li Xuanling, speaking softly. "Since you're with me, your living and cultivation expenses will naturally be my responsibility. From now on, I'll give you 10 Yangyuan pills each month. If you find it's not enough or want to help your uncle secure cultivation resources, then go hunt advanced cold beasts yourself." Upon hearing this, Li Xuanling's face instantly blushed. She then opened the porcelain bottle to find at least 100 Yangyuan pills inside and looked up at Xia Hong's retreating figure, her eyes filled with complexity and inner conflict. What she didn't notice was that Xia Hong, walking toward the main building, slightly grimaced, a hint of heartache flashing across his face. Li Xuanxiang and his 6 men dropped 215 drops. The 8 new outposts collectively captured 139 drops, took 21 drops from Li Xuanling's boudoir, and tonight's yield accounts for 85 drops. Currently, the total stock of cold apple jade dew is 460 drops. As long as we collect a dozen other herbs, we can refine over 4,000 pills. Giving this girl 10 a month should be sustainable, right? The second year of Great Xia, the first day of August. Compared to the Long Mountain, which was just beginning to flourish, Xia City was much livelier. To simply say lively isn't enough. Ever since the night of July 8th, the whole Xia City has been in an uproar. The reason is simple. Liu Yuan had returned the night of the 8th. The triumphant victories at Beehive and Long Mountain, the unification of Longyu, and increasingly explosive news spread from Liu Yuan, causing the entire Xia City to boil. Not only ordinary people, but even those in the logging realm and earth-digging realm. And the 18 just returned and healing from Beehive, upon hearing the great victory at Long Mountain and unification of Longyu, couldn't help but grin every day. In front of the main building square in the great Xia inner city, wrapped entirely in bandages, Yuan Cheng was sitting in a wooden wheelchair, watching a large group of young boys, averaging just over 10 years old, practicing punches. Hey, you smelly brats, punching so weakly and feebly, all that beast meat you eat is wasted. No wonder you're this old yet haven't broken through to the earth-digging realm. Wait till we drag you to the wilderness to spar with cold beasts, then you won't dare keep lounging around the city. The Martial Arts Academy currently holds the youngest earth-digging realm breakthrough record at 10 years and 3 months, and it's soon to be lowered to under 10 years. If you guys are any slower, you might not even be able to beat little kids in the future. Don't not believe it either. When I followed the leader out of the mud slope back in the day, I was about your age. Tusk, back then our great Xia was weak, couldn't even find a good knife. I used a stone axe to fight alongside the leader and minister against a snow mane in the wilderness all night, nearly lost my life. Yuan Cheng chattered on endlessly, completely unaware that many in the back of the punching line were already covering their mouths, laughing and gossiping about him. Lord Yuan has been coming to watch us punch every day lately. No, it's more like he comes to brag to us every day. Isn't he quite idle? Not idle, he's recuperating. I heard a total of 19 lords received serious injuries at Beehive, including the minister, and Lord Yuan's was the most severe, so it hasn't healed even now. I know 3 cold resistance level warriors died too. On the 15th of last month, many corpses were brought back, and crying could be heard from the house next to mine. I heard more than 3,000 people died in total, and on the 20th of last month, Lord Zhu Yuan followed Xia Li's mourning regulations to hold a unified funeral for all the fallen soldiers. Not just their families, but all adults in the camp attended. I know that Lord Zhu Yuan's brother was one of them too. The camp's compensation wasn't low. A single earth-digging realm soldier received 20,000 contribution points, and his lifetime assets, including military merits, were inherited by the widow and children, or if none, an orphan would be selected as the heir. Many died, but our camp's gains were great too. The entire Longyu now belongs to our great Xia. I heard from the lords that it's 13,000 square kilometers. I'm not clear exactly how big that is. Do you guys know? I'm not sure either, but they said it's more than 10 times our current territory. More than 10 times, oh. The leader was impressive, started taking us out to hunt cold beasts even before breaking through to the earth-digging realm. Back then. The chatter from the back of the line did disrupt Yuan Cheng's boasting. He kept weaving his stories endlessly, until a discordant voice abruptly interrupted. All right, what are you going on about? If I remember correctly, you were 17 when you broke through to the earth-digging realm. This bunch in front of you will probably all break through before you. Aren't you ashamed? Chapter 802, Chapter 316, Blood Jade Fox and Teasing Boiling Xia City, Migration Begins Part 5. Get out, Su Ning. What nonsense are you talking about? Everything I said is true. In reality, those who can come to the main building to cultivate are mostly the elite children of the inner city. These kids, their parents are either the hunting team captains or soldiers of the Cloud Dragon Army, and a few even have parents who are at the cold resistance level in Great Xia. These children are already thoroughly familiar with the early history of Great Xia's rise, and even more so with the stories of Xia Hong, Xia Chuan, and Yuan Cheng. Yuan Cheng's recent bragging wouldn't go unnoticed by them, but due to his tyranny, and knowing that he has been in a good mood lately, no one dared or wanted to expose him. Now, Su Ning directly exposed him in such a loud voice, and seeing Yuan Cheng's awkward and embarrassed expression, the group of children couldn't help but burst into laughter. No one is allowed to laugh, continue punching. The group of children ignored his scolding and continued to laugh uncontrollably. Seeing he couldn't stop them, Yuan Cheng himself couldn't hold back and turned to Su Ning to complain. Weren't you going back to Huayuan? Why are you coming here to undermine me? Su Ning laughed and said, I'm not here to undermine you on purpose. A message came from Long Mountain. The minister is asking when you will be fully recovered. Hearing it was Xia Chuan inquiring, Yuan Cheng's expression immediately became serious and he replied, It will probably take half a month more. Is there a command from the minister for me? Su Ning nodded and said, Long Yu has added 8 new posts, and so far the leader has only appointed a Longshan guardian. The defenders for the other 7 posts have yet to be decided. You, as the governor of the department, need to start working. Hearing this, Yuan Cheng immediately showed a bitter expression, shaking his head repeatedly. Don't mention it. Many people have approached me these past few days, all saying they want to go. I don't know whom to send. If you ask me, why not let the leader and the minister directly appoint them? If it's up to me to choose, I have no idea who to pick. Hearing this, Su Ning had a strange expression but quickly understood. Considering the current numbers of those at the cold resistance level in Great Xia are far from before. Currently, there aren't many positions in Great Xia, starting with Xia Chuan as the minister, followed by the directors and deputy directors of the 6 ministries, then the recently added 6 departments in Long Mountain. The defenders are considered a downgraded version of the guardian. Although their rank is the same as the heads of the 6 departments, their authority is significantly lower. This isn't a particularly powerful position, but the problem is that there are more people than posts, with only so many positions available. Currently, there are over 80 people at the cold resistance level at the camp, all vying for these spots. Moreover, there's been talk recently that after the merit awards ceremony in October, the camp will undergo another restructuring, and its said positions will come with special perks. As a result, the competition for these posts has naturally become fiercer. I have an idea, want to hear it? Tell me what's your idea? Hearing Su Ning's words, Yuan Cheng immediately chimed in. He had been worrying about this matter lately, and hearing that Xia Chuan had sent someone to urge him made him even more anxious. If Su Ning had a good suggestion, he certainly wanted to hear it. Actually, from the appointment of Yue Feng as Longshan Guardian by the leader, you can roughly see that for the positions of Guardian and Defender, what's needed most is perhaps not strength itself, but the ability to manage territory effectively. Since Yue Feng took the position of Defender in Mirror Valley, he has provided a substantial supply of iron ore and coal to Xia City, as well as beast meat, beast blood, beast bones, snow bamboo, and bamboo silk. Plus, during the battle from April to July, the 2 direct roads between South and North Mirror Valley were problem-free in terms of supplying personnel and resources. So it's no surprise the leader appointed him. After hearing this, Yuan Cheng fell into deep thought. Are you saying I should test those people on their ability to manage territory? Of course. Then how should I test them? I heard that the direct road will be completed next month, and the Longyu people should be waiting for relocation. The regular hunting and mining at the 7 posts are likely on pause. For those showing interest, directly assign them to take their hunting team, go empty-handed to the post, and stay for a month. By the end of that month, whoever sends the most resources back to Xia City will become the defender. Great idea, Su Ning, you're brilliant. Only then did Yuan Cheng feel enlightened, his demeanor instantly becoming excited. This method of selecting people was indeed fitting. The more Yuan Cheng thought about it, the happier he got, but after watching Su Ning for a while, he suddenly recalled something, showing a hint of regret. It's a pity about you. Huayuan isn't like Mirror Valley. I guess if you were assigned to Mirror Valley, you wouldn't necessarily do worse than Yue Feng. Perhaps you could have been appointed Longshan Guardian. Upon hearing this, Su Ning just shook his head but did not argue. Yuan Cheng's words had some truth to them. After all, Mirror Valley used to be the territory of a giant camp. Not to mention Arrow Bamboo Forest, a large resource-rich area. When it was incorporated into Great Xia, there were already 2 known veins of iron ore within its territory. Compared to Mirror Valley, Huayuan lacked both area and resources. First, the range of 5-8 Mountain wasn't that large, so there weren't as many cold beast resources. Secondly, the iron mine. There was just one, that from 3 Tigers Camp. As the saying goes, you can't make bricks without straw. So if you get a place relatively lacking in resources, it's natural that the amount of resources you can supply to Xia City is less than what Yue Feng can provide. Moreover, the recent battles were all focused on Longyu, giving Yue Feng more chances to make achievements. As a result, his rise as the Longshan Guardian appointed by Xia Hong was only logical. Chapter 803. Chapter 316. Blood Jade Fox and Teasing Boiling Xia City, Migration Begins Part 6. Su Ning clearly didn't want to say more on this topic, and suddenly asked Yuan Cheng. By the way, has Qiu Peng come to record your military merits? Hearing the words military merit, Yuan Cheng immediately became excited, chuckled, and nodded in response. He asked me 2 days ago, haha. I single-handedly held off 3 cold resistance levels, including Li Xuanping. Qiu Peng said that my military merits in the Hive Guard battle were definitely among the top, probably just slightly inferior to the minister, even better than Chen Yingyuan. Upon hearing this, envy first appeared on Su Ning's face, but he soon calmed down upon seeing Yuan Cheng's injuries. On the night of the Hive Guard battle, he was present as well, and he saw Yuan Cheng single-handedly confront 3 major cold resistance levels. To be honest, if it wasn't for the timely arrival of the recently broken-through Xi Ping saving Yuan Cheng, Su Ning could almost be sure that Yuan Cheng would have been the 4th cold resistance level sacrificed by Great Xia that night. This is indeed military merit earned at the cost of life. It is indeed enviable, but also difficult to replicate. My military merits should be slightly lower than yours, as I severely injured a cold resistance level from Long Mountain. Qiu Peng went to Long Mountain to confirm the identity, and it seems he is called Lu Yushan. So rigorous, even going to confirm the identity. Hearing that Qiu Peng went to such lengths to confirm identity, Yuan Cheng immediately became curious and then asked, I heard there would be a major event during the October Merit Evaluation and Reward Conference, and it seems the camp is going to reorganize again. Is it true or false? Clearly, everyone had heard about the reorganization. Su Ning nodded and said, I learned a bit from Qiu Peng. The reason for such a rigorous review of military merits is because they plan to confer titles based on military merits. It seems that in the future, besides positions in the 6 ministries, titles will be the most important in the camp, but I don't really know what that means. Title? Yuan Cheng was briefly stunned upon hearing this, but then he recalled something and said, Shilu went to Xia Clothing Workshop yesterday to make a set of clothes for my kid, and she said the clothing makers at the Xia Clothing Workshop were all working on a very beautiful dress. It was said to be woven 1 strand at a time using bamboo silk and dyed with golden powder. She wouldn't stop talking about it upon return, and insisted I go to Xia Clothing Workshop to inquire and see if I could exchange for a set. The people at the craftsman workshop said that the batch of clothes was custom ordered by the minister and would be used only in October. Could this be related to the title? Su Ning shook his head, clearly unaware. All right, I need to return to Huayuan first. I haven't been there for almost a month, and I don't know how things are going there. All right, go ahead. I'll go and ask Qiu Peng for more information. Oh yeah? The excitement in Xia City continued unabated, with more and more discussions about military achievements and titles, though the most important was the curiosity about the over 200,000 people about to migrate from Longyu. In the outer city, one temporary large wooden house after another rose from the ground, and the land began to be planned, clearly preparing plots for the newcomers. Those already residing in the outer city, aware that more people would soon be arriving, undoubtedly felt even more urgency, especially those who arrived in May from the Beehive, Washuang and Hankyang, who hadn't had time to buy land and build houses. In September, the migration would begin, leaving them with not much time. Time passed slowly like this, and August soon ended. On the 10th of September, the 5 direct roads leading from Long Mountain, Zhejiang, White Abyss, Xiling and Dongqing to Washuang were officially completed. A grand migration finally began. Chapter 804, Chapter 317, wrapping up the migration, Great Xia's flourishing scene, Star-Picking Hall. Second year of Great Xia, September 30, first half of the night. Bang! From the northern city wall of Xia City, a slight rumble suddenly came. How impressive, this wall looks like it's merely made of black soil, yet it can withstand the impact of even a tuft, and with such a large scale, even if I give it my all, I fear I'd only make a few small dents. Without enough time, achieving large-scale destruction is simply impossible. Below the city wall, Li Xuanling looked at the small dent she made with her punch on the wall and couldn't help but marvel. Although she only used the force of a tuft, that was equivalent to a full force strike of most intermediate cold beasts, this wall was 5 meters thick. Even if it were an iron wall of the same thickness, an intermediate cold beast's charge would cause some deformation, yet this wall only showed this tiny dent. It must not be ordinary black soil. Even if these 3 walls encounter a large-scale beast tide, as long as there aren't too many advanced cold beasts inside, they should be able to hold. It's fortunate you were wise in July. Had you brought the Longyu army to attack Xia City then, you'd likely have suffered an even worse defeat. Li Tiancheng instinctively voiced his true thoughts. Noticing the dimming of Li Xuanling's expression, he realized he mentioned what shouldn't have been mentioned, immediately pointing towards the direction of the western city wall to change the subject. The migrating group should have all entered the city. Let's hurry over too and see what kind of scene Xia City has. Even before the battle started in July, Li Tiancheng had already scouted Xia City's situation from Redwood Ridge, though he didn't enter the city then. For the past 2 months at Long Mountain, he had listened to numerous stories about Xia City from those at the cold resistance level of Great Xia, his ears almost calloused from it. Now finally able to glimpse its true appearance, his curiosity naturally piqued. Li Xuanling nodded and went towards the western city gate with Li Tiancheng. Since the completion of the 5 direct roads on the 10th of September, 260,000 people from Longyu had been migrating continuously towards Xia City. The population being too large, and most inside being ordinary people, not trained like an army, and Xia Chuan having arranged migration in batches to lower safety risks, naturally causing the process to be astonishingly slow. The over 10,000 migrating tonight were the last group from all of Longyu, comprised precisely of people from Long Mountain. The uncle and nephew of Li Xuanling were somewhat reluctant to leave their homeland, unwilling to depart so soon, thus they waited until tonight to join the last batch. Walking west for a while, Li Xuanling saw from afar the city gate with 10 long queues. Roughly estimating, he realized at least 6,000 to 7,000 people had yet to enter, causing his brows to tighten. Only about half entered. Why does it take so long to enter the city? Li Tiancheng shook his head in confusion, seeing Li Xuanling stride up angrily, worried she might cause trouble. He quickly followed behind her. Next, I am Zhou from Long Mountain, 23 years old, logging realm married. These 3 are my wife Wang Yunyang, also 21 and at the logging realm in cultivation, son Zhou Shun, 7 years and daughter Zhou Ru, 4 years. Matched, your residence is in Outer City Building 48, temporary wooden building, room 98 on the 3rd floor. After entering the city, go 500 meters along the main road and turn right. Follow the wooden building signs to find it. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Next, I am Zhang Fan from Yucheng, 19 years old, earth-digging realm, unmarried and not registered in the census, just alone. Matched, your residence is the same as the previous one, also in Building 48, temporary wooden building, room 67 on the 2nd floor. Just follow the family of 4 ahead to find it. Thank you, sir, for the directions. Next, I am Zheng Qing from Long Mountain, 31 years old, earth-digging realm, married. This is my wife Liu Ying, 28 years old, logging realm, and my son Zheng Hong, 8 years old. Matched, your residence is in Outer City Building 49, temporary wooden building, room 12 on the 1st floor. Just follow those ahead of you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Over 100 meters away from the city gate, Li Xuanling clearly heard the voices at the gate, finally understanding why it took so long to enter the city. Turns out these guards were cross-referencing the information of those entering the city individually, but the scrutiny was too meticulous, from name, birthplace, household registration, age, to family members. Nearly every aspect was thoroughly checked. Wasn't there already a population registration at Long Mountain? Do they need to check again when entering the city? Great Xia is too strict. Li Tiancheng didn't respond but continued listening for a while, then sighed softly, saying, "Listen carefully. This is assigning accommodation by their household registration and birthplace. Those with the same registration are essentially being dispersed to live with people from other areas." Li Xuanling, being intelligent, quieted down to listen again. Finding it indeed as her uncle said, she immediately realized. They're afraid of people from the same place clustering together, deliberately mixing them by birthplace. Xia Hong is overly cautious, humph. This act wasn't about being overly cautious by any means. Such measures not only significantly reduce management costs, but also enhance the camp's control over newly integrated populations, accelerate their integration into Great Xia, and even have great significance for the camp's safety. Chapter 805. Chapter 317. Wrapping up the migration, Great Xia's flourishing scene, star-picking hall. This is clearly a multi-beneficial and highly effective policy. Her niece's cleverness, Li Tiancheng knows very well. Li Xuanling said this clearly to deliberately provoke Xia Hong. Li Tiancheng pondered for a moment and still spoke in a low voice to comfort her. "Xuanling, Leader Xia is quite kind to you, Every month 10 pieces. May I ask, is the visitor Senior Li Tiancheng? But before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by a voice coming from the city gate. The two looked up and found that at the city gate, two golden-armored soldiers, leading more than a dozen young women with delicate features, were jogging towards them. As these people jogged over, the two quickly examined their attire carefully. At the city gate, whether it was the soldiers on duty or those checking people entering the city, they wore black hundred-forged iron armor, and their basic strength was mostly less than 20,000 pounds. But the two in front were wearing the same golden armor as the Cloud Dragon army soldiers, and their basic strength was over 20,000 pounds. Moreover, the more than a dozen young women with delicate features behind them, although their cultivation had just broken through the earth-digging realm, their attire was not simple. They were wearing cotton clothes like the two, over which was a blue velvet jacket, and judging by the density of the velvet, it was clearly the top layer fur of a frost wolf. The top layer fur of frost wolf is not something rare in Long Mountain, but due to its strong warmth and low yield, this kind of fur is usually used for making hats, and not everyone can wear it. To use it for clothes, and for more than a dozen women who have just broken through the earth-digging realm to wear, that's different. These are not the only things. The silver rat fur around their necks, water blue silk sewn at the cuffs, bone jade accessories on their hair, snow white felt skirts on their lower bodies. These women's clothing and accessories alone originated from more than a dozen different types of cold beasts, not to mention the exquisite craftsmanship. Could it be in Great Xia, even those in the earth-digging realm can wear these clothes? Even Li Tiancheng, who has seen much of the world, couldn't help but be stunned. Li Xuanling even more so. Her accessories and clothes were not few, but compared to these women from Great Xia, they could only be described as simple. Though having cold resistance level cultivation, Li Xuanling was still a woman after all. The love for beauty is innate, and seeing such stunning clothes and accessories, she couldn't hide her curiosity, constantly looking at those women. In the spirit of just arriving, Li Tiancheng didn't dare to be ostentatious, nodded, and cupped his hands towards the two golden-armored soldiers. Indeed, I am he. May I ask who you are? Great Xia City Gate Commander, Zhu Kang. Great Xia City Gate Commander, Hong Yu. The City Gate Commander, apparently a position specifically to guard the city gate. Li Tiancheng nodded, just about to speak, when among the more than a dozen women, a leader first rushed to Li Xuanling's front. Then this must be Madam. My name is Han Yue, the head maid of the Star-Picking Hall, here under the Lord's command to greet Madam. A single Madam instantly made Li Xuanling's face flush with shame, instinctively wanting to refute, but before she could speak, the more than a dozen maids behind her bowed in unison to her. Greetings, Madam. Hong Yu and Zhu Kang exchanged a glance, also bowing. Greetings, Madam. Li Xuanling was instantly frozen in place, not knowing what to say. No wonder the Lord said to wait at the city gate. Once Madam arrived, we would surely recognize her. Among tens of thousands in Great Xia, I've never seen anyone more beautiful than Madam. Indeed, Madam wearing a pure white dress, without any accessories, can still be this beautiful. If she wore summer clothes, it would surely be unparalleled. Only someone as beautiful as Madam can match the Lord. Li Xuanling, with a naturally thin skin, became instantly red-faced after being lavishly praised by the maids, losing the composure she usually had as the leader of Long Mountain. All right, let's not block here. Let Madam enter the city first. Han Yue spoke, cutting off the maids, leading Li Xuanling and Li Tiancheng towards the city gate. The soldiers on duty under the city gate apparently recognized these maids, and seeing Li Xuanling, who came like a moon surrounded by stars, immediately realized something and dropped everything, clearly intending to salute. Seeing this, Li Xuanling frowned slightly, saying softly, "It's just entering the city, no need for all this commotion." She paused slightly, clearly worried her words might not work, and continued to Hong Yu. "I think, in the bitterly cold weather outside, it's better to let the last group hurry into the city to avoid any accidents." As Madam commands. What surprised her was that Hong Yu and Zhu Kang showed no hesitation, understanding her intent, and immediately sped up to the city gate. Don't stop, keep to your duties. Continue letting people into the city. Everyone continue with your tasks, no wandering eyes. Seeing Hong Yu and Zhu Kang obediently following her orders so freely, a peculiar feeling arose in Li Xuanling's eyes. But Han Yue, the maid leading the way beside her, clearly guessed what she was thinking and whispered to her, "Madam need not be so restrained. 5 days ago, when the Lord returned, he mentioned that in Xia City you are equivalent to him, so we will all follow your orders." Hearing this, Li Xuanling felt somewhat pleased. But upon further reflection, she couldn't help but pout. Chapter 806, Chapter 317, Wrapping Up the Migration, Great Xia's Flourishing Scene, Star-Picking Hall Part 3. The meaning of Xia Hong's words is that her authority as his wife is locked within Xia City, and it doesn't work beyond the city and other territories of Great Xia. Of course, Li Xuanling is also aware that Xia Hong has done quite well to this extent, so even though she pouted, she didn't say much and continued to follow Han Yue and others into the city. "Senior Li, your residence is also in the outer city. I'll personally take you there." The group hadn't entered the city yet when Hong Yu caught up from behind. Li Tiancheng was taken aback, clearly not expecting the temporary dwelling arranged for him by Great Xia to be in the outer city. "Senior Li, no need to worry. You won't be living cramped with others. The craftsman department has built individual courtyards for each cold resistance level person who came from Long Mountain. Director Q said this counts as an advance, and once you have enough contribution value, you can repay it at the camp supply department." The 6 departments of Long Mountain have been established for more than 2 months, so Li Tiancheng is not unfamiliar with many of Great Xia's rules. In fact, he has already set up his own hunting team in Long Mountain and has a considerable amount of contribution value. Yet this approach by Great Xia, of not giving any special treatment to the cold resistance level, still stirred a slight peculiarity in his heart, increasing his curiosity about the scenes within the city. "In that case, I ask young friend Hong Yu to lead the way ahead." After Li Tiancheng spoke, the group resumed their steps towards the city. As they stepped through the city gates, the faces of Li Xuanling and Li Tiancheng were immediately illuminated by flames, their expressions dumbfounded as they took in the scene before them. Before their eyes was a broad main road 10 meters wide. Although large flakes of snow were floating down from the sky, no snow had settled on the main road. To be precise, the snowflakes melted upon nearing the ground and flowed as water toward the drainage channels on both sides of the road. On both sides of the main thoroughfare, every 5 meters stood an iron pole 7 meters high, on which hung a coal furnace. Through the furnace walls, one could see the glowing coal stone inside, emitting heat outward. Admittedly, the heat was secondary. The light source was more important. The densely arranged coal furnaces released a light source that illuminated almost the entire main road. With the buildings on both sides fully lit with fireplaces, no dark corners could be seen in the outer city. Besides coal furnaces, on both sides of the street, every 20 meters stood a large ice tree with a diameter of over 5 meters. These ice trees were evidently transplanted inside Xia City a long time ago, and even the outer ice layers covering them had vanished, faintly appearing in a greenish hue under the firelight. "Madam, you came at a bad time. When these ice trees bear fruit, the fruits and branches will be encased in a thick layer of ice, and that's when they look best. They were just harvested in August, and it'll be another 2 months before the next harvest." Noticing the gazes of Li Xuanling and the others, Han Yue immediately began explaining. "Both in the Great Xia inner city and outer city there are 4 main streets. These ice trees aren't considered rare vegetation, which is why they are placed near the city gates. Further in, you can see Chen Xiang, green water, blue jade, green saliva, Xiang Han, Bai Zhai, jade bone, cold red, and dozens of other types of trees. Madam, please." If the static streets, houses, trees, and everything else were just enough to make Li Xuanling and her uncle widen their eyes, then the occasional native inhabitants of Great Xia on the streets and the residents emerging from the houses on both sides were enough to leave them utterly speechless. On the streets, many people had entered the city gates just like them, but one glance was enough. Even without looking at their energy, their attire alone distinguished them from the native inhabitants of Great Xia. Most people coming from Longyu wore beast skin clothing. Even those in the earth-digging realm would mix in some beast skin in their cotton clothing. Only those with earth-digging realm limit cultivation, or children of some high-ranking camp officials, wore pure cotton clothes. But in Great Xia, it was different. Almost all adults in the outer city wore cotton clothes on the inside, with standard beast skin clothing for cold resistance on the outside. Children playing around on the street, aged 6 or 7, wore complete sets of beast fur outfits. the craftsmanship and materials of which were evidently better than the cotton clothes worn by the adults. Xuanling, look at that boy over there, did I see it wrong? Li Tiancheng suddenly acted as if he had seen a ghost, pointing at a teenage boy not far off and signaling Li Xuanling to look. Upon hearing this, Li Xuanling looked over, her face brimming with surprise. This boy is at most 13 or 14, and he's already broken through to the earth-digging realm. Hong Yu, standing nearby, naturally heard Li Tiancheng's exclamation. Following their gaze, Hong Yu glanced at that young boy and assumed a peculiar expression, saying, speaking of which, that boy actually shares the same surname as both senior and madam. His name is Li Yuanqing, and he just turned 14. Hearing this name, both Li Tiancheng and Li Xuanling's expressions froze simultaneously. This isn't just a shared surname. Li Xuanxiang had a son named Li Yuanqing, who served as the commanding officer of the 2nd Regiment of the New Army in Longyu. During the Changbai Gully battle, Li Yuanqing was captured by Great Xia, and Xia Hong had personally ordered his execution at the end of July. Though Hong Yu hadn't been in his role as City Gate commander for long, he had learned many things from his father, Hong Guang. Seeing the rigid expressions of Li Xuanling and Li Tiancheng, and after a moment of contemplation, he realized that the person from the Li family executed at the end of July was also named Li Yuanqing. That was when he realized he had brought up something he shouldn't have.